Hello, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Hello. Wow, so nice to finally see people. Yeah? Hello, Minister, Speaker. Last year, I think we only saw 10 people, right? I saw Anita for sure, and just like 10 people. But wow, so lovely to be able to have you all together again. Very, very nice indeed. And good morning again. And welcome to the Social Service Summit 2022. It is a fabulous year. It is the 30th year, and so it is with great joy that we are all gathered here today. And for those at home, hello, and thank you so much for joining us. I'm Susan Ng, and it is a pleasure indeed to be standing. Oh, Alex, Lilian. Oh, familiar faces, so many. Okay, just a few housekeeping announcements, okay, before we actually begin. Firstly, do note, if you must make use of washrooms, they're outside, and they're right across from the ballroom, just outside the door. And please note that you have to be masked at all times, unless you're up here, or eating, or drinking, okay? Thank you so much. And if you need to purchase parking coupons, this would be for those who drove here. You can actually purchase your parking coupons at the event concierge counter at level 1 and also at the level 3 business center. Okay, parking coupons are at $8.56. Very good number. Only 3 though, so you got to go and figure out the 4th one. In case of an emergency or if anything untoward does happen, and if you hear a fire alarm, please do not head for the exits. Just wait for announcements that you will hear through the PA system, and you will be guided. If an evacuation is necessary, you will be guided out to evacuation centers, and please do so in an orderly manner. You will be guided through that. And a reminder, if there is an emergency, please don't use the lift, okay? Assembly for everyone will be just outside the Marina Bay Center. This is the open courtyard outside the Sands Expo and Convention Center. You see the app in front of you. This is Pigeonhole. We will be using this throughout today's summit, and you will be able to share your questions, your comments through the Pigeonhole app throughout the event today, and you can access it quite easily through your phone. Just scan the QR code on your phone. You can do that at any time. You can do that now as well. Also flashed in front of you just a few moments ago is the program for the rest of this morning. A final reminder, if you haven't done so yet, to please, if you could just silence your mobile devices, whether it's your phone or if you're carrying an iPad or any other device, please put them on silent mode throughout the event, okay? So this will make it a lot more comfortable for everyone who's here today. Okay, so that's out of the way. Once again, welcome. And thank you all very much for making time to be here today. I know it takes a bit of an effort, right? To get out into your cars and coming here. How many of you got stuck in traffic jams you were never stuck in before? Oh, nobody. Very good. Oh, one person, only Alex. Okay, very good. The rest must have come here by some magic way. So I was told to take the train. I drove anyway, but I left hours ago so I could beat the jam, and yet I still got stuck in the jam. But that's good, you know. I say it's good because it just means everything's getting back to normal or as near normal as possible. So it's great. Okay, so we're also pleased to have with us today Desmond Lee, Minister for National Development and Minister in charge of Social Services Integration. Minister. Also, Mr. Tan Chuan Jin, Speaker and NCSS Advisor. Speaker. And many distinguished guests, all of you here today. Thank you and welcome. So the theme for this year's summit is Forging a Better Future for All. And I think over the past 2.5 years, we've all realized what this means. And if we hadn't thought about it before, I think the majority of us spent some time pondering and thinking about it. So it is apt that this is the theme for this year's summit. It's been 30 years. We look forward to 30 more and the next 30 more. And we have a specially curated program today that we hope will inspire all of us with new ideas, with conversations that are so needed, not just today, but tomorrow as well. And also something I firmly believe in, I think all of you do too, is collaborations. We know now that no man is an island, and if you are an island, you would reclaim the land, and so that we can actually build those bridges that we always talk about. And now is the time to build those bridges and to collaborate, because we know we can't do it alone anymore. And we've seen many, many groups come together, groups that we never thought would come together with us, come together, hold hands, and move forward. And all of this will actually allow us to build a better and a brighter future for all of us in Singapore. And so as part of the 30th anniversary celebration of NCSS, they've launched Stories from the Heart. This is a series of 30 heartwarming stories of individuals who've journeyed alongside NCSS and made a difference to the social service sector, and what a difference it can make. The video you're about to watch will feature sector professionals and the support from NCSS to enable them all to maximize the positive impact on service users, and we hope that you will enjoy this video.
When I was 15, I was left to do anything that I want without a lot of supervision. And that's where I first joined a gang and committed my first offense and was placed in streetwise program. Back then, this program is a 6-month program funded by NCSS for those youth involved in gangs to leave the gang. I'm very fortunate to be able to meet a youth worker there, my mentor. He was very genuine and he was consistently there for me. It challenged me to come back to volunteer in 𝑭𝒐𝒓𝒆. I have actually became a staff, and I'm very thankful for him actually opening that opportunity for me there. After this whole saga, my mom's medical condition deteriorated and was hospitalized. Some part of her mouth is actually being affected and she can't speak anymore. One fine day, we went to visit her and then she suddenly spoke to all of us. She spoke to me to don't go down the old way. Even until today, it's one of the things that, a promise that I made to her, and I'm still keeping until today. Football is a sport. It's part of the interest group that we run. This journeying process, as we are playing together, we learn together, we experience wins and losses together, really helps to shape their character, and at the same time, they also learn a skill. To me, the key thing is to be genuine. To be genuine is about being real. Is that when a youth come to you, we don't see them as a problem, but rather we see them as a person who's able to think and who's able to feel.
I am a social worker at the Family Service Centre with Tahaw Kwan at my person. We deal with families who have financial issues, spousal violence, abusive parents at times. So it's a wide range of problems that come into our centre where we will come in and then we will assist them. I used to be a CMB officer. My late mother told me to switch job. So I went to a career interview as a teacher and I got in. In 2016, my friend, Mr. Clinton, actually told me to sign up for this professional conversion program supported by NCSS, which is now known as Career Conversion Program, where I get to work and learn at the same time. With the amount of experience I have as an educator, as an enforcement officer, and also a parent, allows me to understand further how to deal with the stresses in the family. And I think that allows me to be a better social worker, I hope. Social service is an interesting place to work because you get to see different facets of life. It allows me to learn a deeper meaning of what is being patient, being loving. If I were not be able to do that internally as myself, I wouldn't be able to help the clients who are in need.
𝒐𝒐 is a social service agency. We have been here for 52 years from 1970 onwards. We serve persons with disabilities, seniors who are aging in the community, as well as families who needs support. Fundamentally, for the organization, no matter which client group we serve, we want our clients to participate in the community as independently as possible. Sometimes it could be a physical barrier, sometimes it could be a psychological barrier, social barriers. We remove those barriers so that they can participate fully in the community. I started off as an occupational therapist and I grew up here. When I was first nominated for the Social Service Fellowship, I realized it's a great opportunity to contribute. And what the Social Service Fellowship gives you is that partnership, that friendship, that network. The social service now and social service in the 1970s or 1980s are very different. We are looking at more sophisticated issues, part of the developed economy problem in a good way. And that's why it is important for us to think out of the box. Social service sector is where you can still make a decent living, but at the same time, you can follow your heart and you can continue to have a very good sense of fulfillment, that self-actualization. So if you're someone who wants to have a decent career, at the same time have that social, emotional feeling on a day-to-day basis, join the social service sector.
Oh, I do hope you enjoyed that video. It's brilliant, isn't it? My deafness does not define me. And I think we should all remember that. Yeah, we define us. And, I think you'll meet some of the people in the video here in the audience today. And 𝒕𝒕𝒕𝒆 is here, I think, isn't he? 𝒕𝒕𝒕𝒆, are you here? Ah, there you are, my friend. I haven't seen you in ages. So that's a lovely video and indeed very inspiring for all the people who were featured and those who were helped also continue to inspire the rest of us so that we can also step up to do more. I'd like to now invite the president of NCSS, Anita Pham, to provide this morning's welcome address. Anita.
Hi, everyone. It's so good to see all of you and to really be able to meet in person. So a very good morning, Minister Desmond Lee, Speaker Tan Chuan Jin, partners, colleagues, and friends. Welcome to our annual Social Service Summit 2022. I am so glad we can meet in person once again for this annual get-together. Meeting in this day and age cannot be taken for granted. So I trust that you will all have a meaningful time of interaction with each other today. I hope that you enjoyed the heartwarming video shown earlier and are inspired by the stories. All of you, social service professionals, volunteers, partners, and funders are so instrumental in serving the needs of our community. Thank you for being there for them during these critical times. I would also like to thank each and every one of you who have journeyed alongside us in NCSS in building a culture of care and compassion and helping to strengthen our social service ecosystem. Over the years, I've had the privilege of working alongside many of you, and I have witnessed for myself your passion and dedication for our sector firsthand. As many of you know, NCSS is celebrating our 30th anniversary this year. We were formed with the mission of providing leadership and direction in social services against the backdrop of a changing landscape. Through the years, we have championed social issues and developed strategic partnerships to ensure that our sector is well placed to meet needs and challenges. NCSS will continue to learn from past lessons and adapt to changing needs. I first entered the sector in 1994 when I joined the board of 𝑭𝒐𝒓, and when I saw that snippet just now, it really brought back a lot of warm memories for myself. And I witnessed firsthand its evolution through the years. Let me share two significant changes in the sector which are close to my heart. First, on special education. I recall the time when special education was started ground up by the community. In addition to funding, NCSS conducted studies, surfaced issues, and together with her community partners, lobbied for education and the integration of persons with disabilities into the mainstream. With significant resourcing from the government, special education is where it is today. Secondly, the formation of the community chest was also a game changer for our sector. As a result of it being introduced 39 years ago, SSAs could concentrate on professionalizing themselves rather than spending all their time and effort on fundraising. Over the years, with growing complex needs, we have morphed into having a 3P approach in resourcing the sector. The changes in the sector that we see today are a testament to our patience, fortitude, and persistence over many, many decades. Needs are constantly changing, and there are always new challenges, such as the recent COVID-19 pandemic. We have to remain optimistic, tenacious, and purposeful in our journey so that we can continue building a better future for all, no matter how challenging it may seem. In order for us to stay ahead, we should always ask, what's next? It is therefore most fitting that the theme for this year's summit is Forging a Better Future for All. As we continue to transform the sector, we must remain focused with clear goals. The social service sector strategic thrust, or more commonly known as 4ST, aims to do just that, as it reflects the sector's views on which areas require attention over the next few years and how we can work together on these areas. So I am really excited that we are launching the refreshed 4ST today. If you recall, the 4ST was our 5-year sector roadmap that was launched in 2017. It was co-chaired then by our past NCSS President, 𝒖𝒓𝒈𝒊𝒈𝒈 𝑭𝒐𝒓 and myself. This year, we are launching the second iteration of the 4ST, which will take us from this year through to 2026. Our vision remains unchanged. Every person empowered to live with dignity in a caring and inclusive society. But we will have a clearer pathway of change management and identification of goals to encourage greater understanding, adoption, and ownership by our sector. I would also like to emphasize that meeting our 4ST vision does not only rely on the single efforts of one single agency. Instead, it requires a coordinated effort within and outside the social service sector. Let me share more about what we have achieved over the past 5 years and the key shifts in the refreshed 4ST. As part of our first key thrust on empowered individuals, their families, and communities, we have seen social purpose entities, or we call them SPEs, embrace empowerment in their practices over the past few years. Individuals, families, and communities benefited from the support networks to cope with challenges more independently. And SSAs have started creating opportunities for service users to advocate for themselves. In the next iteration, we will introduce new service and financing models to enable service users to have greater choice and ownership over the services that they consume. Emphasis will be placed on a systems approach to solve complex social challenges. We will also introduce new forms of funding through partnerships to encourage new innovative person-centered solutions. I am happy to share that NCSS will launch the 4ST Partnership Fund later this year. The 4ST Partnership Fund will support effective initiatives and programs that demonstrate the 4ST strategies of collaboration, innovation, and empowerment to achieve collective impact for service users. As part of our second thrust on effective social purpose entities that deliver quality, innovative, and sustainable solutions, we have strengthened the organizational capability of SPEs over the past 5 years. The government and community have also signaled support for long-term capability and capacity building of SSAs with the establishing of the Community Capability Trust. In the next iteration, there will be a greater focus on organizational health. The Organizational Health Framework for Social Services that we launched earlier this year will serve as a framework to enable SSAs to be more focused and impactful in their organizational capability building. We will also be guided by good data and supported by capable and effective manpower, volunteers, and systems. To complement our collective impact initiatives over the years, we will also launch the Systems Leadership for Social Sector Program, also known as 𝒖𝒓𝒈𝒊𝒈𝒈, in partnership with SIM. 𝒖𝒓𝒈𝒊𝒈𝒈 will focus on developing the collective capacity of leaders to drive transformational change and solve complex and systemic social challenges across sectoral boundaries, in alignment with the 4ST and the larger vision of SG Cares. As part of our third thrust on caring, collaborative, and impactful social service ecosystem, the sector has harnessed greater corporate and community resources over the past 5 years with many more giving of their time, talent, and monetary contributions. Moving forward, we need to be more enterprise-minded in how we run our SSAs. We need to be more efficient in how we use our manpower and financial resources, and also think of how we can be more financially sustainable and independent in the medium and longer term. We need to adopt a sustainable resourcing mindset and be open to more non-traditional players entering our ecosystem with innovative financing and impactful investment instruments. Clearer and more standardized outcome reporting and impact measurement must become the norm. We need to also adopt a common measurement language and vocabulary in the process. While continuing the good work across all three thrusts, we will also include a new and fourth thrust as part of our 4ST. The fourth thrust, Future Directed Social Service Sector, is a horizontal thrust that will ensure our sector makes better use of data and technology, plans for the longer term, and continuously learns and adapts to foreseen and unforeseen developments. It will also ensure that our sector embraces challenges and learns from failures in the spirit of innovating for better outcomes. To ensure that the 4ST remains actionable, NCSS will lead the following initiatives. We will launch the 4ST playbook today, which will advise different stakeholders on how to implement the 4ST outcomes. The playbook will be iterative and dynamic as more content is added over time. I encourage all SPEs, donors, and funders to use the playbook to take action so that we can achieve our shared outcomes. We will also start the 4ST Implementation Committee this October, which I will chair. This committee, made up of representatives across the three P sectors, will provide oversight over 4ST implementation efforts and catalyze initiatives at the sector level. To help us meet our 4ST vision, it is important for the 3P sectors to come together and create more significant impact. I encourage all of you to see how you can contribute to this vision. But before I finish, I would like to leave you with 3 C's as food for thought. Not the C's which we usually think of in the Singapore context, but rather the 3 C's of clarity, commitment, and courage. In order for us to significantly move forward, we need clarity in vision and our work plans. And that is what the 4ST is all about. But we also need commitment to vision and purpose. And that is what we ask of each of you and your organizations. To be committed to the 4ST and for what it stands. But above all, we all need courage. Courage in leadership, for courageous leaders who are prepared to make hard and difficult decisions and be accountable for them. These are leaders who, in the words of Harvard Business School professor Nancy Cohn, are leaders who can help us make a leap of faith and be integral to creating a better world, and to believe this is worthy of doing and possible. By doing so, courageous leaders give confidence to and empower the rest of us to be part of this worthy journey. It is the only way to make significant breakthroughs and change. we are emerging from 2 very, very strange years. They most certainly weren't the easiest. But I deeply believe that they have given us the opportunity to recalibrate and remake ourselves. As I look to the future, I am filled with a deep sense of optimism and excitement, for we can unlock this potential. The key is to rally and work together. May we not be intimidated by what lies ahead of us, but instead recognize the wonderful opportunity to grow together. May today's summit and what has been shared be a catalyst for all of us to do so. Thank you, and may we all have a very, very fruitful day ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Anita, very much indeed. And yes, certainly it is a journey. And as the world changes, so must the way we work, and hence new partners, new collaborations are very important indeed. And, you know, we've seen inspirational stories, we've heard them, we watched the video, but now we're going to meet someone who is an inspiration. I was introduced to him several years ago, and he had made the journey into my studio to have a conversation with me. And wow, I was blown away by this young man who let nothing stand in his way. And I'm so glad that finally I get to see you again after 2.5 years of not seeing you. But, you know, our next guest is a testament to what everyone talks about, the importance of empowering our service users, uplifting them, enabling them to become leaders of their own journey and their own destiny. I am excited to hear your story, and I know you will be blown away as well. Ladies and gentlemen, please meet Mr. Alistair Ong, champion of diversity and inclusion.
Hi everyone. Okay, mic check. You all can unmute yourself. This is not Zoom or Teams. Let's try that one more time, all right? Hi everyone. So good to see so many of you here today. Thank you so much for coming. And thank you very much for the warm introduction and welcome as well. My name is Alistair, and today I will be sharing my life story, my life experiences, the journey through empowerment, and I hope that it encourages every single one of you here as well. So let me start with this question. What is your biggest challenge in life? For me, it was this mountain. This was a place in Indonesia. It's called Mount Bromo. And I remember going there for a volunteering trip with my friends. We were all so excited. We are going to climb this mountain. We alighted the jeep, and they carried my foldable chair down the jeep. It touched the soil, and they tried to push me along. So they tried to push and push, but it became slower and slower. My wheels got stuck. What should we do? And of course, my very helpful friends, they decided to take long bamboo poles, and they say, Alistair, don't worry, we have this covered for you. I said, sure. They tied 2 bamboo poles to the side of my chair. And they decided, 1, 2, 3, up onto their shoulders. And they carried me along. And my friend started to joke and say, 皇上驾到, which is, Emperor, you are here. It was an enjoyable fun seeing the view up there. It looked so wonderful. But 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 1 hour, the pace starts to slow, and it got slower and slower. Suddenly, the joy in seeing the view and the excitement diminishes. And I start to wonder, am I making them tired? Why am I here? How I wish I could just quickly go back and not be a burden to the people, to my friends. I see their sweat dripping down, switching shoulders from left to right and right to left. And you know that means their shoulders are painful, right? We reach the foot of the mountain eventually, the summit. And when we were there at the summit, I said to them, no, it's okay. Don't have to bring me up. I will stay here. It's okay. Why not? All of you go up and have fun and enjoy. Tell me how it looks like. Part of me did not want to trouble them anymore. Part of me actually wanted to join and be part of them. But they said, Alistair, we have already brought you all the way here. Let's complete it and finish it well. They unstrapped my legs. We called all the strong guys or strong friends to come. And they said, 1, 2, 3, and they lifted me up my chair, piggybacked me on their back. It was a narrow stairs of 242 steps. We said, excuse me, make way, please make way. They shout out saying, yeah, he's heavy. Let's get him down quickly. So they said, please make way. Midway, we rested and said, okay, let's go. One more time, let's go. So lifted up again and continued step by step by step by step. And eventually, we made it to the summit of the mountain. The view was amazing, and we all did it together. For me, that was one of the biggest challenges in life. When I was born, I did not cry, and there was a lack of oxygen to my brain. Part of my brain that controls my hands and legs are being affected. It's called cerebral palsy. And so growing up, there were many things that I couldn't do in life. I will continue to share some stories of how my parents were when I was growing up. I'm going to show you my father. He brought me to swimming when I was younger. And there were times when he said, son, come here. I said, yes, Dad. I have something very important to tell you. I say, okay. And he said, son, you must know that it is okay. And I'm not too sure why he said that, but he said this. It's okay. Your brain is all that you have. And he said, study hard, do finance, earn a lot of money, stay at home. Wow, sounds interesting, right? Well, guess what my mom said? My mom came over and said, darling, I want to tell you, it's okay. Study hard. Be a home tuition teacher. Earn a lot of money. And stay at home. And I thought to myself, that is quite interesting, right? Earn a lot of money. Well, that makes sense because I have to earn a living for myself. But stay at home? Well, maybe they thought COVID was coming, and so they tried to preempt me. Work from home all the way, be the first one to do it, and pioneer the work from home champion. Like, maybe they saw that coming. But why work from home? You see, what if I have more dreams than just this? Is there more to life? Are there any more possibilities than just this? And so, one day I came home and I asked my mom. I said, Mom, may I go out with my friends, please? And that was when I was about 14 years old in secondary school. And my mom turned around and said, go where? For what? And I turned around and said, this Sunday, I'm going to Expo with my friends. And she said, no. What if you go to the trains and you roll down the steps? What if you roll down onto the tracks? What if you need to go to the toilet? Who is going to help you? What if you roll over someone's foot and they be angry and start to punch you instead? What if? And of course, my mom became creative and she said, don't worry, it's okay, you can go, but let your helper accompany you. And don't worry, she won't be around you. She'll take the same train, but in another train carriage. Wow, so creative, right? Of course, eventually, my mom relented. And I'm so thankful that she let me out to go with my friends. She said, your friends need to accompany you all the way, every single step of the way. I said, yes, Mom, I will. But imagine, is this how and what empowerment looks like? The ability to make choices. Yes, I was young. I might not understand fully the complexity of things, but was there still the ability to make choices? But not only to make choices, but also to take the responsibility for the choices I make. To accept the responsibility. It's not just, oh, I can make this choice and that choice, but the ability to take responsibility. What if my mom didn't take that first step to let me go out? Would I be me? Would I be where am I today? And I want to thank my mom and my dad for raising me up. Because it is not just love, but care. And it's not just love and care, but also risk and trust that is needed. I appreciate every single journey that they have given to me in my life. So, level up, achievement unlocked. I enjoy going out with my friends until one day, I thought everything was going so smoothly already. And I encountered this. Lift breakdown. Oh no, what to do? Well, we decided to get out of the train. I looked towards the escalator and I think, should I do that? Maybe not. If not, I won't be here. Of course, I didn't. And my friends decided to call their friends, and their friends called their friends, and their friends called their friends, and a whole group of them came. I was like, wow, so many bodyguards now. They pushed a manual wheelchair to the train station. 4 guys came to the platform and they said, come, let's carry you. So they lifted me off my chair, down the steps, and placed me onto another wheelchair that's below. Of course, they left this chair on the platform because this is heavy, 160 kg. So yeah, of course, it's lighter to carry me, right? So that was what happened. And that was another form of empowerment, where it is not just my family, It is not just the SSAs, which I'm grateful for and I'm very thankful for. But there is more than just this. It's my friends as well that I went out with. But my friends of their friends of their friends, which form the whole community, coming together to rally together for empowerment. Maybe this is how empowerment can be achieved. That is not just the family, the social service, friends, but the whole community and society coming together. Imagine if my friends didn't get their friends, we would still be stuck there. But it is the community that comes together, whether they are volunteers or donors, everyone comes together to support one another, and that's how empowerment can be achieved. So level up and achievement unlocked. The next story I'm going to share is a time where I asked my mom. This time, it's not just going out. I said, Mom, can I travel overseas with my friends? Her jaw dropped again and what if? Eventually, she relented. She said, okay, you may go. And this was a time when I was in the Philippines. My friends were carrying me up the steps. And when I was there, I was happily eating my food, the delicious spaghetti over there. And there's a volunteer leader who came up and said, hi. I said, hi, I'm Alistair. And we had a conversation. And during that conversation, he said, Alistair, you have a good story to share. Later in the evening, we do have a session. I know you're not allocated, but can you share with us your story, please? My face was stunned. My jaw dropped. Of course, I quickly covered up and, oh yes, sure. As a nice Singaporean flying all the way to Philippines, I said, yes, sure. Actually, all I wanted to say is, don't disturb me. Let me just eat my spaghetti. Leave me alone. But I was there. And thoughts began to go through my mind to moments when I was younger. When I was young at 6 years old, I remember boarding the bus. When I was boarding, usually my helper would need to carry me up. My mom would need to fold the stroller. And when we board the bus, pushing through the crowd, helper needs to grab the grab post of the bus with one hand and with another hand withholding me, grabbing for our whole dear life in case the bus starts to move and jerk. And I was having and hearing some conversations like my mom said, yeah, sometimes people don't know or people don't really give up seats. And I thought to myself, I have a very innovative solution. Why didn't anyone think of that? And mind you, I was 6 years old. So you'll be wondering, what solution is that? I'm going to tell you right now. The next time we boarded the bus, I told myself, this is it. I'm going to go with my solution. So same thing. My helper carried me with one arm. Mother pulled the stroller. And we went up the bus, trying to grab the grab post for our dear life. And I said this, Ayo, no seats again. Wow, suddenly 5 people stand up and come, please have a seat, please have a seat, please sit down. And I thought to myself, success, mission accomplished. We have so many seats to choose from now. But when we went home, my mom said, Ayo, Alistair, don't say that again lah. So paiseh, you know. And from then I thought, maybe I shouldn't really say so much. Maybe I should keep quiet. Do I have a voice? And when I was growing older, 7, 8 years old, in primary school, when I was there, I remember it was quite unfamiliar going to a brand new school. However, my therapist from 𝑭𝒐𝒓𝒆, they came over. It was a familiar face. They met my teachers, the principals, and they said, this is Alistair. He will be joining the school. These are some of the needs that he has. However, he has many other strengths as well. And they were the ones that lent me a voice, that became the voice for me. They were the ones that were the voice for me when I did not have a voice. They were the ones that said, this is Alistair, these are the help that he needs in school. Please continue to support him. And I was very grateful for them because they were the voice for me. And I think one of my therapists, who is Karthik, he's here in this room today. Hi, Karthik. Can we give Karthik a big hand? Thank you so much, Karthik, for journeying through together with me. I remember when I was younger, you came to my school and you continued to give me therapy as well. And I really, really appreciate being the voice for me when I did not have one. Thank you so much, Karthik. And thank you to 𝑭𝒐𝒓𝒈 Foundation as well for supporting me through my education. So please help me convey word of thanks to Jacqueline Khoo. Thank you. So this was me. Someone lent me a voice. And when I was older, moving into the workforce, I remember my first job was in Singtel. When I was in Singtel, I was there. And I remember sitting down together with my colleagues and my bosses. We were having a nice conversation and they said, Alistair, can you share more about yourself? I said, sure, I'll be happy to. And afterwards, they asked, what kind of help do you need when you come into the office? How about when you leave the office? How about when you go to the washroom? Do you need any help? And these are authentic and real conversations that are important because we don't want to overhelp. And imagine if I come into the office and I say, it's okay, I can do myself. And they say, no, 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 it's okay, come, let me help you, let me help you. We don't want to overhelp, but we don't want to underhelp as well. So it was very nice to have an authentic conversation. And that was when someone asked me for my voice. And I learned how to use the voice that is inside of me. And I think some of them here are here in this hall and this room today. We have Boon Chong and Andrew. Can we just wave for your hands or something? Thank you so much. To Boon Chong and Andrew, thank you so much for journeying with me. It was my first job upon graduation from SMU, and I had a lot to learn. But thank you for your patience and your perseverance during my time there at Singtel. Thank you very much. Can we give them a big hand again? And so, back to the Philippines. When I was there, I said yes. Those thoughts were going through my mind. Do I actually have a voice? What voice do I have? I said yes. I spoke. And after that session, many of them came forward and they said, Alistair, I was so touched and encouraged by your story. And that opened my eyes to see that empowerment can be that way too. From a crowd of just 50 to now one of the largest 8,000 people speaking at different places in Philippines, in Indonesia. That is how empowerment looks like. And when we talk about empowerment, it's moving from keeping silent to now stepping out of the comfort zone. And at the same time, this is how empowerment looks like. To be the voice as well. And I was empowered through the voice that I had with me. Achievement unlocked, level up. And so as we come to a close for this segment today, what can we do? What can we do all together? Because today's story and sharing is not just about me, but it's about every single one of us. And I've termed it as A, B, and C, so that it's easy for us to grasp and remember. A stands for accept. Are we able to accept service users' definition, the problems that they describe for themselves? Are we able to ask and to accept service users' goals or what they want to achieve in life? I was being asked, and what I wanted was to go out and participate in the community. And I was hurt because people around me accepted what I wanted. But of course, to all of us out here, sometimes service users might not fully know the other constraints or consequences that might happen. So that is when we actually coach, guide, and mentor. And we have B, which stands for build. Can we build upon the strength, the resilience, and the foundations that were set from the past many years? And how can we continue to build on them? And last but not least, C, which is very important. How can we co-produce with every one of us, with the families, with the service users, those who have completed the system as well? How can we get all the volunteers coming together so that we can all co-produce for even more inclusive society? So A, B, and C. One last quick story, and I'll close this session. For me, I see empowerment right now as a purpose. To not only receive, but to give to others. When I was in Indonesia, there was a boy in a wheelchair. They said, Alistair, do you have some time to go to his house? I said, sure. The father wheeled him out. And from there, he was quiet and looking down. But as we shared, and as I shared my story, at the end of that session, he said, thank you. And his face lit up with a white smile, a smile of gratitude, encouragement, and appreciation. And I was thinking, I was that boy too, because someone has impacted me. And if I may be that little boy today, to tell every single one of you here, thank you for making an impact in my life. If nobody has said a word of thanks to you before, or if you have doubted yourself, if what you are doing is worth it, I want to say thank you on behalf of all the service users. Thank you for making a difference in our life. You have made an impact in everyone. Can you give yourself a big round of applause? Remember the mountain at the beginning? We were enjoying the nice view until my friend said, wait a minute. We still have to bring him down. There will be ups and downs in life, but let's continue to persevere through. Once again, my name is Alistair. I'd love to stay in touch with every one of you. Take care.
Thank you. Oh, Alistair, thank you. Come on, let's hear it for Alistair. Alistair, thank you all. Alistair, thank you very much. We invite you to remain on. Isn't that a brilliant story? I think it's brave of him to stand up here, to speak to you, and to speak with us. And Alistair's story, I hope, will inspire all of us to do more and to ask questions, yeah? And really to ask questions. You know, questions like, is there more to life? Yes. Alistair knows that. I think we need to realize that as well. And are there more possibilities? Yes, for sure, there are possibilities. Alistair is the testimony to that fact. And am I making them tired? Yeah, I am. But I think it was a joy for them, your friends, yeah, to be tired for you. But I think more than that, it is Alistair's own perseverance, you know, and I know Alistair has said this many times, I think, to his parents, right? You love them, you thank them, but I want all of us to thank Alistair's mom and dad, please, for letting him out the door onto the train for his first train ride and then letting him on that plane. Because Alistair, you're going to fly. You're going to continue flying. So Alistair's story is a powerful one. We talked about empowerment. It's not just empowerment of self. Alistair, you've proven that. But all of us need to realize that. We need to also give ourselves the opportunity and the chance to be able to walk alongside Alistair. And I think that becomes very important. And kudos to you, Alistair, once again, for your bravery and for your willingness to speak about your life, because that's the only way we'll know how to journey with you and to continue helping others like you as you are continuing to do that. And we know our limitations, we know our reservations, we know all of these things, but I think we also need to ask those questions, Alistair, as you have, and so seriously, you are an inspiration to many. We need to all step outside of our comfort zone. We need to have those conversations, and that's what we're moving into next, a conversation, a dialogue, and the possibilities that can be unlocked through the dialogue. And so our next segment, as we delve deeper into the future strategies on building a more effective social service sector, it gives me great pleasure to invite Mr. Desmond Lee, our Minister for National Development and Minister in charge of the Social Services Integration, Anita Pham, and also Martin Tan. Martin is the NCSS board member and also the moderator for this dialogue, and Alistair continues to be there. Thank you.
Wow, wow, wow. Good morning, everyone. Alistair, I'm going to try the same thing again. Can you please unmute yourself? I really, really like that. Can you please unmute yourself? Good morning, everyone. This is really awesome. Wasn't Alistair great? I think he deserves another big round of applause. This is really, really awesome. Alistair was an amazing session. As we get our dialogue started, why don't we do this? We have over 1,000 people. Just look around you. We haven't seen this kind of crowd for a long time. Just look around you. Take the sight in. It's just a wonderful time, a wonderful place. Won't you turn to your neighbor and just look them eyeball to eyeball and say, boy, you look good today.
You look good. You look good.
Because you all look good. You can turn to the neighbor next to you, the other one, and say, because the person have mask on. It's my great pleasure to really get our dialogue started, and it brings us just tremendous joy to have Minister with us. And I'm going to invite Minister maybe to give your opening remarks, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause, Minister Desmond Lee.
Very good morning to all our friends from the sector. Very glad to see you all physically in person after 2 years of the pandemic. Good morning to Speaker of Parliament and Advisor to NCSS, Mr. Tan Chuan Jin, Ms. Anita Pham, President of the National Council of Social Service, and my fellow panel members, Alistair and Martin, friends and partners from the public, private, and people sector. Good morning once again, and thank you for joining us for this Social Service Summit. I'd first like to thank, on behalf of all of us, Alistair, for sharing your truly inspiring story with all of us. Apart from working in social service integration, I'm also serving in the Ministry of National Development. So when he mentioned that there was a lift breakdown, my heart skipped a beat. But indeed, I met Alistair a number of years ago when I was visiting SG Enable, and then at the Purple Parade, and it was always the life of the event. And I think for many of us, Alistair has scaled higher mountains, both physically and figuratively, and inspiring all of us to overcome that mountain in our lives. He spoke about friends carrying him up the mountain, down the steps. But actually, by doing so, they've enabled him to do so much more and to multiply his efforts, inspiring people, doing things, working hard. And in a way, he's not spoken about how he himself has contributed so much to the community and enabled so much to happen in our sector. Minister Masagos, Minister for Social and Family Development, is away currently, but I'd like to convey his greetings and congratulations to all of you, to NCSS on your 30th anniversary. And I'm also conveying on behalf of Minister Masagos, myself, as well as former ministers of MSF and MCYS, Speaker Tan Chuan Jin, Dr. 𝑭𝒐𝒓𝒈𝒊𝒈𝒈 Ibrahim, Minister Vivian Balakrishnan, who's away, Minister Chan Chun Sing, and myself would like to congratulate NCSS and wish you a happy 30th birthday. We'd also like to thank NCSS board members, management and staff, both past and present, as well as the social service community for working together with us as we mark this very significant and important milestone in the development of our sector. Thank you for supporting our community all these years, including during these 2 very difficult pandemic years before us. Special thanks to Ms. Anita Pham, President of NCSS, and her team for leading the work on refreshing our social service sector strategy thrust of ₄ Thank you also to Mr. Philip Tan for your many years of selfless service with our community chest. The theme for this year's summit, Forging a Better Future for All, captures our vision for the social service sector. We want to build a more caring and inclusive society where everyone has the opportunity to improve their lives and no one is left behind. The social service sector plays an important role in this social compact, complementing the work of government to nurture strong families and resilient individuals. Over the years, we've been building a stronger and more effective social service ecosystem where the public, private, and people sectors come together to support the more vulnerable in our community. The government has rolled out various programs such as Workfare, Comcare, Kickstart, Progressive Wage Model, and many others to better support lower income households. More charities and social service agencies and corporates have stepped up to meet growing needs, especially during the pandemic. That was clearly demonstrated. And more donors, philanthropists, volunteers from the community have come forward to give their time and resources generously. Over the last 2 years, we saw that tremendous generosity of spirit. While these efforts have helped many families, there are still those who continue to struggle with life's challenges because they face a complex web of interlocking challenges that complicate one another. For instance, a breadwinner of a family may be unable to work because of health problems. The family could then fall into financial difficulty, into debt, have difficulty paying their rent or mortgage and other needs. This may in turn create stress and conflict at home, leading even to children struggling in school. Such a family would then need support from multiple organizations, such as MOH for healthcare, SSO for financial help, HDB for housing assistance, FSC for family support and counseling, MOE for school support, and many more. Most of our agencies and community partners focus on a specific domain, like healthcare or education, or specific groups like the youth or seniors, and understandably so, as we seek to specialize and build deep expertise and knowledge and be able to better support these needs. But what this often means is that no one agency or community partner can by itself help such a family overcome all the different challenges put together. So each agency or community partner tries their best, but often feel frustrated because they just can't seem to help the family move out of their circumstances once and for all. From the family's point of view, they need to seek help from many sources for their different challenges and issues, which can add to their burden. And that is why all of us in the social service ecosystem can and must work together to strengthen our social service delivery system. We have to maintain a clear focus on the outcomes that make a difference. We need to take a much more user and family-centered approach rather than an agency or program-centered one. MSF's flagship initiative for this, together with all of you in the community, is Community Link, or ComLink, which aims to support, enable, and uplift families with children living in HDB public rental housing, and to support them to achieve stability, self-reliance, and ultimately, social mobility in life. Under ComLink, we reach out to the families proactively through dedicated befrienders as a single touch point to build rapport and trust and better understand the family's needs and aspirations, hopes, and fears. And with the family's consent, we pool data from across agencies and organizations to get a 360-degree, more holistic understanding of their circumstances. And then we work with the family and with agencies and partners to formulate a common dynamic action plan for each and every family that joins us in Community Link. And then align our efforts to support the family, find what their assets are and strengths, empower them. Don't just fill in the gaps and deficits, but empower the family and the community themselves through asset-based community development work. More broadly, we've been strengthening that important triangle: social, health, and community integration, which is so important in supporting and uplifting more vulnerable families. For example, we now have Case Master Action Planning, or Case Map, a framework through which different agencies work together alongside the family to develop a common case plan for the family and seek to align their efforts. So many, many helping hands, but through Case Map, let's synchronize, let's harmonize, let's organize around the family. We've also set up new digital systems to improve collaboration and data flows among agencies. Case Connect is one example. It allows agencies and organizations to coordinate, work together on the common action plan, know what each other is doing, when, what, how, for each family. Refer issues to each other, keep track of updates seamlessly, but remembering that we're not dealing with problems or with people with problems, but with families who want to take charge of their difficulties and just need that little bit of support from us. Another example is One Client View or 1CV. It enables back-end data sharing across agencies, of course with the family's permission, so that families do not need to provide their information and their documents time and time again, multiple times, to different organizations and agencies. And agencies can then have a 360-degree view of their circumstances and then better support them. We also have streamlined action protocols that seek to reduce the burden of applications and help seeking from different organizations. So for example, when SSOs through the short and medium term assistance through ComCare has assessed the family's needs, other organizations can automatically give support. Now, all these are important enablers, but these are ultimately just systems and tools for us to improve the way we can coordinate. But they only work as tools if we continue to build trust and strong relationships among our different agencies and community partners, and more importantly, the frontline people serving in these organizations must look across organizations and see ourselves as one team, supporting the families at the heart and center of all that we do. And that is why a few years ago we set up the SGCares Community Network in each and every town across Singapore to bring community partners, government agencies on the ground together to understand one another's efforts, build personal relationships and rapport, to enable collaboration to work a lot better. We have also started the MSF Care Network to bring volunteers and partners together and connect them to those in need. Now, these are the ways in which we're improving that triangle of social, health, and community integration. And in doing so, we enable donors, philanthropists, corporates, and volunteers from the community to achieve much more impactful and data-driven giving. Because with good data, with a good understanding of ground needs and what families really require in order to fire them up to achieve their full potential, we can better signpost, guide those who want to contribute to the areas of greatest need on the ground. So no need to guess, no need to imagine. We have been able to work with the families to identify and then aggregate those needs. And by coordinating better across agencies, we ensure that our efforts are aligned, we minimize wastage and duplication of resources, maximize all the efforts and contributions we put into this sector. And that is how we deliver more comprehensive, coordinated, and convenient support to families, what we call the 3 Cs. And to achieve that, we need what Ms. Anita Pham has just said, another 3C from NCSS. Clarity, courage, and commitment to press on with this integration. We've been consulting our partners across the social service sector extensively as we press forward on this journey of transformation and change. Through our conversations, many of you, many of our social service agencies and SPEs, shared your hope that different parties can work together better, coordinate better, so that we can tackle complex issues and cases more effectively. Look beyond the case, see the family for who they are. You also told us that we need to pay more attention to our resourcing strategies to ensure that you are sustainable in the long term while finding ways to remain relevant and bring value to the families and individuals that we collectively serve. With these in mind, we have refreshed our social service sector's strategic thrusts of 4ST, which will be unveiled later. The refreshed 4ST is a roadmap for our sector, by the sector. The 4STs, as Anita described, recommends how it might work better as a whole ecosystem to empower and uplift those in our midst who need more support. Our sector should seek to be more effective and impactful to ensure that we are well positioned for the future. We should move towards diversity and sustainability of our resources, supported by more innovative approaches in philanthropy and deeper and closer partnerships between funders and their supported organizations. Very important in future when needs grow and resources get more scarce. In serving our service users, we should focus on being more person or family-centered so we can meet their needs more holistically and support their aspirations and dreams. And ensure that we focus on collaboration to maximize impact, optimize resources, and tackle challenges in the present and future. So I'm glad to hear that NCSS will be embarking on initiatives to support the sector in driving the refreshed 4ST, such as the 4ST Partnership Fund to support innovative collaboration that strengthens social service delivery and empower the sector, as well as the upcoming Systems Leadership for Social Sector program to develop leaders to collectively drive transformation by providing systems leadership. I hope that all of us here can tap on these resources, draw on the insights and strategies of the refreshed 4ST, so that we can deliver higher quality, more innovative, integrated, coordinated, and sustainable services. Ultimately, we must continue to improve the lives of Singaporeans, aim for more concrete outcomes across health, education, employment, and quality of life. And we ask all of us here to consider what are the key outcomes that we hope to achieve together, and how we can strive to deliver greater impact and meaning, and create ever-present opportunities for generations to come. Let us join hands in nurturing and building lives together. Together with my panelists, we look forward to our discussion later. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. I'm not holding back, but I'm really processing, Minister, some of the things that we have actually launched and really built over the last few years and come into the forefront, I think, over the last 2 years. We've been building and building. The one thing I love about us today, we're celebrating 30 years. I remember being together with Eugene on the committee, really thinking about what we can do today. And one of the things we talk about is that a lot of what we have today is built on the shoulders and the heart and sweat and tears of those who have gone before us. And what you have shared in your speech are really a culmination of all the different efforts coming together. So I think both as a citizen, as well as a practitioner, as well as an active member in this community, it has been a tremendous blessing to be able to see all that has come together. So I do think it will be a great time to really thank everyone in this room and give each other a big round of applause for all that you have built over the last 30 years, being able to now see what is coming to fruition. Anita, I thought we'll start with you because in your speech you talk a little bit about adapting to changing needs and so on. And I like Alistair's first question to all of us. What is your biggest challenge? Now, I know you said what is your biggest challenge in life, but given the time that we have, I really want to dive deep into the social sector to a certain extent. You talked the 3 C's, right? Clarity, commitment, courage. But challenge is also a C. Complexity is also a C. Yeah. It's 2 different kind of C's that we have to deal with. What do you think will be the biggest challenge that is preventing us from going into this roadmap and making this roadmap into fruition?
Okay, it's not a C, it's an M. It's mindset.
Oh, for a moment I thought say money, but okay,
yeah, oh money. Oh yeah, we need that too. No, mindset, because I really think that the invisible monster in the room, in the sector, ourselves, our minds. It's a lot of times we think we can't do something because it's so complex. A lot of times we don't want to do something because it means change. And a lot of times we don't want to do something because it's just scary and it's so, so difficult. But I think if we have an openness to say that, okay, it's difficult, it's scary, we may fail, but it's better than not trying at all and not being open. So to me, I think mindset, if we can be just more open to new things, to doing things differently. I'm not saying that we do things differently for everything, but if there is a better way of doing something, we should consider that.
And embracing failures is one of the thing we talked about at the 4ST steering committee, right? That in the fourth thrust, in forging ahead for a better future, we need to learn to embrace failure as a community. But it's quite scary. I mean, to a certain extent, we run different organizations, we're part of different organizations, and sometimes failure means that, you know, our programs don't see the light of the day, or we get funding cut if we don't achieve the numbers. So how would you recommend for all of us to change that mindset into one that really have the ability to embrace failure?
I think COVID is a really good example, because COVID forced us to change certain things. So it's when we encounter a complex, challenging situation, I think it's really turning it on its head and thinking, well, you know, in this situation, does it help to continue doing it the way we're doing it? Is there a better way? And I think sometimes it's having the courage to say, nope, it doesn't work, pull the brakes and do something else. But sometimes it means having the wisdom to say, okay, it still hasn't worked, we tweak it and we continue because we believe it's something really, really good and we've got to press on. So I don't, you know, it's not so easy to have a clear-cut answer. I think it's a whole lot of things, and and the other thing is it's not reliant just on one person making a decision. Because when you have a whole bunch of people in the room, they see things from different perspectives. And that is so important, because we know what we know, we don't know what we don't know, we see what we see, we don't, and there's some things we don't see, but others do. So it is so important that when we are at the crossroads of making these decisions, that it's not, and this is leadership too, it shouldn't fall on the shoulders of one person to make the decision. It's a collective thing. But what I talked about, courage in leadership, is sometimes the leaders have to stand forward and say, it's difficult, it looks almost impossible, but it's important to do, and I take responsibility if it doesn't work. And when that happens, it gives the rest the confidence, because they know there's someone there to hold them if it doesn't work. And I think that's really important.
I like that, because the ability for us to build trust, and Minister, you talked a lot about trust earlier, as the base where people are willing to take that leap of faith. The ability for people to say that, you know what, my leaders have my back. You know, if I fail, it's fine, because to a certain extent, it really helps us. I do want to say that at this point, remember Pigeonhole, because we're starting to get questions coming in. And I know the staff is staring at me. Martin, you forgot to make the announcement about Pigeonhole. So I can feel their eyes staring at me. I said, you didn't follow the script. So wherever you are, just remember, just the Pigeonhole. I think the guys will put the QR code if it's not already up on the number. So please feel free to ask the questions, and then I will process that accordingly. Alistair, talking about trust, and really the whole question was about empowerment. And I love your slides, by the way. I love how you say that, you know, empowerment is about the ability, having the ability to make choices as well as to take responsibilities. When the community come together, that's empowerment. In your mind, you are a service user. You're also an advocate. You're also a champion. How do you think we can slowly build trust across the different sectors between organizations and users, as well as the ability for us to take the courage to change the mindset that we have? What will be your quick take on it?
I think my quick take on that is that trust sometimes develops over time. And I like the word about building. We continue to build upon. Maybe, so throughout my life, for example, I wouldn't go to my mom suddenly and say, Mom, I'm going to fly overseas with my friends. Maybe trust is progressive, and it takes time to grow and to develop. and to build upon the foundations that we already have. Maybe it's going down first. Maybe it's now going out to my friends over here in Singapore. Then only to go overseas with my friends. And I like what Anita mentioned just now about getting everyone in the room. Because when it was time for me to go overseas with my friends, I remember, I said, well, let's get some of my friends, my leaders who are going to bring me, and get my mom and my helper, my family in the room. And we all actually sat in one circle. And they said, right now, let's discuss what are we going to do and how can we bring him overseas and back safely as well. So I think it takes time to build, and it's really to have conversations like this, to be open, to be willing to take risk, intelligent risk, of course, but at the same time to build upon what we have already accomplished.
I love that because it's a step-by-step. Small wins, we call it in leadership development, right? Celebrating each of the small wins. And then as you overcome each one of them, it becomes bigger and bigger. But you have a strategy. You brought everybody to the room and you say, you know what, let's really talk about this. Mom, I've done it before. And now it's just a little bit further, not train door, but plain door.
Yeah.
All right? And as you go along the way, you really build that level of trust with your family and your family with you as well. And I think that's a big thing. And, you know, talking about step-by-step, Minister, I remember when we first talked about the idea of Comlink, you know, this whole hub and spoke, this was a number of years in the making now. And we celebrated small wins along the way. It wasn't easy when we said that, hey, let's consolidate, let's have the SSO office and so on. How was that journey for you in building trust? Often or not, I remember an adamant survey that, you know, sometimes trust of leaders has become lesser and lesser over the number of years, especially during COVID now. How does government therefore build trust? Not just with the people in this case, but with the social sector as a whole, because all of us are keen players in this space. And there needs to be this collaborative trust with the government to say that, you know, I want to be a part of this because this is what is needed. So how would you share in terms of how government's approach in building the trust with the sector as a whole?
The sector serves with its heart. And if we want to fire up our sector, do the best for our families, then we need to build relationships. We need to strengthen trust at every level. At the ministry, my colleagues and I reach out to social sector leaders, to corporate leaders, to both secular and religious leaders, to partners at the leadership level, meet, greet, engage, heart-to-heart talk on various issues. And then on the ground, where the service users encounter us day to day, that relationship building is also absolutely critical, absolutely critical. One may say, let's build trust by, you know, reviewing our arrangements. Let's review program criteria, policies, and all that. All those need to be done, but to enable that to be done in a sensible and sustainable way, I think we just first need to build relationships. And one may say, well, I just very angsty with this organization. This organization always never reply, you know, come back and push back and this and that. I think it's very common on the ground to hear that. But in communities that we've visited on the ground, where there's already that warmth and collegiality, you see that actually a lot of these barriers melt away. And if they exist, they can be overcome. Because there are leaders on the ground who say, I don't see an organization, I see a person who cares as much as we do in serving these families, and we want to work together practically, sustainably, effectively. I need to reach out, not to the organization, but to the person. And over time, you see a culture building. Maybe a micro-culture. We hope it's much more pervasive than a micro-culture. But if it pervades communities all across Singapore, where not just social service agencies, but social purpose entities more broadly, corporates who come in, secular and religious organizations who come in, volunteers, community, the grassroots, and so on. If there is that microculture taking root all across the island, then I think it lends itself to trust, and with trust, a lot of artificial and unnecessary barriers get dismantled, because you trust the person who's giving you that feedback, and you trust that by doing this, there will be reciprocation. I think that's important. In visiting some of the towns when we first started the SG Cares network to try valiantly to get that kick-started, we found certain areas where when I went there, I was the stranger. Everyone was already so warm. They said, Minister, actually, why you need to do this? We already meet for potluck all the time. And things get driven. But in other communities, unfortunately, when we visit, things are a little bit cold. The engine hasn't started. People are more formal. You know, they introduce themselves. I am from this organization instead of I am Desmond. But over time, even that melts away. So it's not the snazzy systems or the high-level policies or programs that really make things work. It is just that personal trust. And from there, all things necessarily follow.
And a lot has to do with what Anita was talking about, that the slow mindset shift and being person-centric is also where they start seeing that it works. That when people come together, this whole collaborative effort, we start seeing people's lives getting better, their needs answered better, their needs met faster. I think once we start seeing that, then people realize, oh, actually this might work, and I can play a big part in that. And just a reminder for the pigeonhole questions, we do have one that has probably one of the most number of votes, which I think it's an important question and something that we can speak out loud because I think it's on people's mind. In fostering the spirit of SSAs or SPEs, is there a place for competition? I mean, when we ask for collaboration and to a certain extent, sometimes our funding structure does pit one of us against the other to a certain extent, right? It's like, 3-4 organizations, we are eyeing X number of limited resource. So what do you think, Anita, in fostering the spirit of SSA, and enterprise spirit of SSA, is there a place for competition? And how can we, through that lens, call for a greater level of collaboration?
Healthy competition is necessary because otherwise, how do we improve ourselves and make ourselves better? Otherwise, we rest on our laurels, especially we think it's a taken that because, we've done this all along, we're just going to continue. And I think we need that. I mentioned how there's this need that we need to be more efficient in how we do things. I think that's really important. So at the same time, there is space for competition, yet there is space for collaboration. I don't think they're two mutually exclusive ideas. I think we need that quest of being better. Better here doesn't mean best in class. It means doing better for the people whom we serve. Can we do it more efficiently in a way that really benefits them in a better way? So it's always that quest of doing something so that the people whom we serve will benefit even more. Perhaps with that dollar, you're stretching it more. That way you can help more people. And that is competition, because if there's no competition, there's no incentive for us to do that. So I think it's really important.
Lester, I want to come to you because as a service user, you worked in Singtel before, and Andrew is here, so I'm going to put him on the spot now. You worked in Singtel, and you will realize that competition actually helps us as users. Well, it's supposed to help us as users. It's supposed to drive costs down, but we don't usually see it that way. But you're supposed to drive costs down. You as a service user in the sector, do you see that happening? Like, do you see a greater value created because of competition? And maybe with that, it has a better collaboration that creates better environment for you or programs for you. What are your sense and your take on it?
I think when it comes to competition, what we should ask ourselves is, what is the intent behind why we are competing? Are we competing because of a fear of lack? And therefore we strive and toil and compete because we want to get something that others have and we don't have, and like, oh no, what's going to happen? Or is the competition coming from within and say, because I want to constantly give better, do better for our service users? And I think it's the same, whether it's a competition among SSAs or organizations, or competition among ourselves, me versus you versus others. And from a lived experience, when I was growing up, I do compare myself with others a lot as well. And it might not be that healthy because when I compare myself with others, I have the feeling of not good enough. And I have that feeling that I want to be like the other person, and that makes me lose who I am and who I should be. But when healthy competition starts to come in, I say, I just want to be a better version of myself. And I compete me with my yesterday. I compete with my past. And as long as I'm improving every step of the way, I think that's healthy competition, because then it's from within. And I think that is very important for all of us.
Very much so. The ability to better ourselves. And I think for us as organizations as well, in competition, it allows us to better ourselves in our service delivery, in our innovation, in our ability to meet needs better. One of the things about collaboration is this whole idea of a win-lose mentality versus a win-win mentality, right? We all want to think win-win. The challenge is that sometimes in a win-win environment, we have a problem when someone else wins more than me. Then all of a sudden, we take a win-lose attitude into a win-win scenario, not realizing that actually we have both won. It's just that, you know, at this point, maybe you get a bigger slice of the pie, I get a smaller slice of the pie, but collectively, the service user actually get better. And I think that's a big part of that mindset change and how we actually build collaboration. I know time is running out. I do want, Anita, just one more question for you, in particular about the diversity to the board of NCSS on ground issues faced by SSS. How do we ensure that? So the question is, how can we introduce diversity to the board of NCSS so that ground issues faced by SSS are really surfaced? And I think that's a very valid question. And we've been curating and hoping that more people come to serve on the NCSS board. So I thought it's a good question for us to slowly wrap things up for the dialogue.
I mean, you know that this board is very unique, right? Half appointed, half elected. But the half elected really comes from yourselves. So I encourage all of you. And I'm really heartened to see the slate that's running today. It already, if you look at that, is a really nice cross-section and representation of our community. And it comes in different ways. Okay, some will be elected to the board, but we have different committees, we have different communities of discussion. And I encourage every single one of you to step forward, because it's only when we hear your voice, only when we hear your challenges on the ground, that we can be similarly responsive. And we need your feedback. We need not only the feedback, but yourselves being actually actively involved in curating some of these solutions for the challenges that we face. So it's not just the 8 board members who get elected today. It's also in how you serve in the communities. We also have different communities of practice and discussions. This is where you come in, because we actually need as many voices as we can, from as many different backgrounds as we can, in order to deliver the solutions that we need for the complexities that lie ahead of us.
As a fellow board member of the last 2 terms, I can say that the kind of discussion we have at the board level is diverse and really quite robust.
We encourage everyone to speak up. And you can imagine, you know, it's such a broad cross-section in our sector. It covers everything. And that's why it's important for you to step forward at every opportunity that you have to really help us, not only by just complaining and criticizing, but also providing solutions and pointing out the things that we may not know, because you are on the ground, and we need that so much. Thanks.
It comes back, I think, and I want to end on this point. I'm going to ask each of our panelists to end with this. It comes back to Alistair's actually keynote, which is how your friends and the community became your voice. A large part of what we do in a sector is to lend voice to people who don't have one, to lend services when people don't have one. And I take that responsibility with an utmost fervor, because sometimes for a lot of people, without what we do in this room, it becomes hard for them. So as an aspiration for the social sector for the next 30 years, we're celebrating 30 this year, or as an aspiration for the next 30 years, I'm going to start with Alistair and Anita, and Minister, I'm going to be giving you the last word. Alistair, what would be your aspiration? What's your dream for the sector? Not just as a service user, but really as someone who has, you know, been an advocate and a champion for the community that you're with. So I'm going to start with you. What's your aspiration for the social sector for the next 30 years?
My aspiration for the social service sector is that all of us can come together to co-produce as one. I think that is very important because we don't work individually, but we come together, whether it's service users or service users who have completed the process, and can they come back to serve, to volunteer? Can we tap on them, those resources? Can we enable volunteers from the community, from society, to come and co-produce together? Can we have caregivers to come in as well? So my vision for the next 30 years is that all of us can co-produce as one together.
Co-producing together. Thank you. Anita, your aspiration for the sector?
Okay, you'll probably kill me. I don't want to see the word social service in 30 years' time. Because we've siloed everything. What's social? What's health? What's education? You know, it's all one. So yeah, I hope 30 years' time it's not a social service summit.
You will be the Singapore Summit. Minister, last word for you. What is your aspiration for us?
I will merely supplement what both Alistair and Anita have said so eloquently and so succinctly. I think ultimately we want to be present to support and empower the dreams of every family, every individual. We are not here existing in our own right, but because we are here, whether you're government, whether you're the SPE or SSA, whether you're secular, whether you're religious, whether you're corporate, we're here because we're here to serve and empower individuals and families. And if we just put that front and center in everything that we do, then we are in the right direction, in the right trajectory. And just finally, to address this perpetual paradox that we get confronted at actually many, many dialogues. And often we'll be asked, you know, in the social sector, why do we have so many new organizations coming in? Isn't it inefficient? Isn't it a drag on resources? Aren't many small organizations less efficient than a few MNC-type large organizations? Should we not consolidate? And between the paradox of consolidation and having large organizations with heft versus one with a constellation of larger, mid-sized and smaller organizations, how do we address this seeming paradox? And I always kind of reach the view that it is not a paradox. It is the strength of the sector. We are not corporate enterprise, but by bringing in the discipline that enterprise brings to bear on itself, healthy competition, innovation, discipline with resources, seeking out social profit and maximizing it for the families we serve, we can empower that constellation of organizations, provided that each and every one of them does their level best, shares resources, is prepared to examine ourselves and say, we may be small, but let's run as efficiently as we can. Resources are limited, needs are many. Let's plug into these communities all across Singapore and serve to the max of our capability. And I think then Anita's dream will come true. Social health community triangle will come to bear. And then this social service summit, you'll have to find another name for it, Anita. Thank you.
Probably not the Singapore Summit, but empowerment is such a key theme right now. I mean, as we are talking, and Minister, as you're wrapping up, it is true. It's really just really empowering lives, empowering organization, empowering leaders to achieve. The ending question, and with this we will wrap, that is not just for the panelists. What is the dream for us, for the social sector, or whatever we're going to call that sector for the next 30 years? Can I encourage all of us in this room to think about it? What is your aspiration? Because it's not just us on the panel that have to answer this question. It's really all of us in this room, because collectively we can make things happen. So ladies and gentlemen, won't you please put the biggest round of applause to our panelists, Alistair, Anita, and Minister Desmond. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you to Martin. And may I just invite all our panelists to remain seated on stage, please. Very insightful dialogue indeed, and a great closing question from Martin. And of course, building a future-ready social service ecosystem will require very new ways of thinking, new collaborations, new partnerships even, and also to develop innovative and sustainable solutions for all of us as we tackle the next 30 and the next 30. We've heard from all our panelists on their aspirations, their hopes, their wishes, their dreams, C's and otherwise, and of course the M, that's very important. I agree with Anita, the mindset change is important. And as we get you to think about your aspirations for the social service sector, whether you are a user, family member, whether you are working in the sector full-time or part-time or as a volunteer, think about that. And we want you to, as you're thinking, share a video with you. Please enjoy this.
When you think about the future, how might I be empowered to fulfill my dreams?
To age with dignity.
How might social purpose entities remain relevant to address future challenges and continue to have the resources to be effective?
And increase our organization's capability to better serve individuals and families in need.
How might corporates align social purpose with their business goals?
How might collaboration between the people, public and private sectors be strengthened to achieve greater collective impact?
How might each of us contribute in our own way?
I see a future where everyone is empowered.
And no one is left behind.
I see a future where sustainable business meets a social purpose.
I see a future where partners come together to support and include everyone.
Together, we can join hands
to build a more caring and inclusive society
where everyone can fulfill the potential
and prepare for future challenges.
Thank you, and I guess that's it. You know, we do see a future, and all of us see that same future, and we hope that we'll all be a part of the future. Doesn't matter what we call our next summit. Maybe just, Anita, the summit. How about that? That's quite cool, right? Okay, there's going to be a little bit of movement now on stage as I invite Minister, Anita, Alistair, and Martin. If we could just have you move to the front of the stage so we can clear it. Thank you, and Alistair too. So we've got staff coming up to clear off the stage, and as we're doing all of this, we'd also like to please invite two other special guests to be joining us on the stage for this next segment of our program. We'd like to invite speaker and NCSS advisor, Tan Chuan Jin, and Ms. Tan Lee San, NCSS CEO, to join us, please. And this is the launch of 4ST. Today, the social service sector continues its 4ST journey with a refreshed roadmap, as you've heard Anita talk about, for 2022 on to 2026. And this is where, you know, usually we tell people to put their mobile phones away. But I want you to take out your phones now. Not for you to reply WhatsApp and take calls and call, you know, your son, have you had lunch and all that, but do take out your mobile phones. And we want you to join us to launch the refreshed 4ST. Okay? Okay, everyone ready? You got to get your camera function up and running as well. Again, not for your selfie, but you stay muted though. Okay, everybody got their phones out? Okay, you need to be ready to scan the QR code later, but does everybody, can we get just a show of hands? Everybody got their phones out? Yes, 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 yes. Okay, cool. Okay, we just. Okay. Yeah, Alistair, you can face. Yeah, great. Thank you. All right, so now that we've got everyone's phones all ready, I'm going to just invite, the QR code is up there already, and so we want you to do this all together with us, Ken? Yes? Okay, now can you unmute? Yes, Alistair, we all have to borrow this line from you. Okay, everyone ready? Yes, okay, cool. All right, so you see the QR code there on the screen. We're going to get the, actually, do they need to turn around, or can they face forward? Do our panelists? Okay, so I've been told that the panelists, those of you on stage, we kind of need you to turn around, face the screen at the back of you. Is that correct? Yes? Yes? Okay. All right. There's a plan to this, I promise you. Okay, and we'll just have to place you a little bit. Alistair, too. Are you ready? Okay, everybody faces the screen, and for those who are on the stage, Lisan too, you just reach out. You can't touch the screen, but we want you to just, yes, all right. On my count of 3, all of you point your handphones again against and towards the QR code, and as you launch with your camera, the QR code is when we will launch 4ST. Are we all ready? Oh wait, some of you are not ready yet, huh? Okay. Are we all ready? All right, on my count of 3, 2, 1, all right? Ready? 3, 2, 1. Oh, brilliant. That's a really nice new refreshed logo for the next 4 years of the refresh for GST. We want, did I say GST? I'm sorry. 4ST. Oh my goodness, I've got the wrong things on my mind. Apologies to everyone. Wow, slip of the tongue means slip of the mind, right, speaker? Okay, now he's going to scold me after this when I get off. 4ST, everybody look front. We want a nice group photo, please. Big smiles. Thank you. Thank you all very much. And that's it for our officially launched, refreshed social service sector strategic thrust, or the 4ST. We want to thank you, Minister, Speaker, Anita, Lisan, as well as Alistair and Martin. Thank you all very much for helping us launch the refreshed 4ST. May I now invite you back to your seats, please? Thank you very much. I tell you, scold me already. Okay, so many things to think about, huh? Whatever T it might be, right? There is a timeline, but you know how time flies. Before we know it, the 4 years will be up. So as Martin says, you know, we do want you to have us all think about our aspirations going forward. I would now like to move on to the next segment of our program, which is usually the more exciting part, where everyone gets to talk about and discuss to see what it is that we want to do. So I want to hand over the time to Calvin Chu for the 4ST discussion. He is the panel discussion moderator. He's also the managing partner at Eden Strategy Institution. And Calvin will be guiding us all through a series of activities to help us better understand and to get familiar with the refreshed 4ST roadmap and to kickstart that 4ST journey. Calvin.
Thanks very much indeed. Hi everyone, very good morning to all of you. So in this section, we are going to do two separate things. The first part, I think, you've all sat here for quite a while. The idea is to let the 4ST sit in with all of you, to let it land home, and give you all a bit of a chance to talk to each other. So we'll do that very shortly. And after that, we'll do a panel where we'll listen to some practitioners who have incorporated some parts of the 4ST in their normal work, and we see how their stories have gone. My name is Calvin Chew. It's a real privilege to be here. I've had the privilege of partnering with NCSS for the last maybe 6 or 7 years, and I see many familiar faces in the crowd, many good friends. It's really nice to be here. So thank you all for this opportunity. Maybe we'll start off with a quick recap of the 4ST, the 4 key thrusts that we have. First was about empowered and included individuals, families, as well as communities. For me, for example, the key thing that struck me was really about leveraging on the community assets as well as assessing information, helping to reframe, helping the policies to be focused on individuals to take a person-centered approach for this. The second aspect for the second thrust is really around effective and impactful social purpose entities. And this is really, I think, the most relevant, in my opinion, for all of you, because it's really about building capacity among social purpose organizations, accessing different aspects of what we can do to improve the sector attractiveness, to build our capacity. The third, to form a caring, collaborative, and impactful social service ecosystem, to take a systems approach, to be able to build our collaborative capacity, and also to think about sustainable resourcing strategies. So I think that fundraising and things like that are always on people's minds. How do we actually help this, take this to the next level? And the fourth, the new thrust, is about future-directed social service sector, to look at aspects like digitalization, to form experiments, to take risks, and to build up the digital maturity of our organizations. So I just wanted to remind everyone of these 4 STs. And now we have a chance to discuss this. In front of you, if you look on your tables, we have prepared some lovingly curated 2 sets of things, right? One in a set of envelopes will be the many resources that are available, so we won't be touching that yet. What we'll use to facilitate table-level discussions now are these cards that you see. So you see 4 cards. These are cards that really span across all the 4 STs. We're talking about, you can pick it up now, you can distribute it around. These 4 include people, processes, and systems, sustainable resourcing for the future and the future, strategic partnerships and collaboration, as well as empowerment and inclusion. You'll notice at the back of the cards some prompting questions that you could use to facilitate conversation. And the exercise that we're going to do at the table level, actually we'll do it in pairs at the table level, okay? So what I'm going to ask you all to do for the next, let's see, about 10 minutes or so, is to discuss with one partner at the table, and please don't discuss with somebody that you already know, okay? So reach out to somebody that you don't know. You can shift your seats around in a minute if you wish, right? Discuss with somebody that you don't know already. What is, choose one of these for each of you, choose one of the cards for each of you, and then you can choose any of these prompting questions, but the key question that we like for you to ask yourself is, what kind of insight, what do you take away out of these cards, right? And you will see on Pigeonhole again. Again, you can scan up here to answer the question. So what, there's a tremendous collective wisdom in the room. What we like for you to be able to learn from each other is also to use Pigeonhole, key insight for yourself after your discussion. And after that, all of us can look at the whole group. Now, before we go into the discussion, I'd like for you all to also, it might have felt a little bit weird. You have about 8 people or so sitting around the table. Maybe you haven't had a chance to actually introduce yourself to each other, right? So maybe at the table level, before we do the pad exercise, can we at the table level introduce your name, your role, your organization, just very briefly, and also tell your friends around the table one interesting thing you've learned or fun thing that you've learned through the pandemic, okay? Your name, your organization, your role, and one interesting or fun thing you've learned in the pandemic. So we'll do that at the table level, and after that, we'll spend about 10 minutes at a pad exercise with somebody you don't know, and then please fill out the Pigeonhole. Okay, so 10 minutes. I'll see you in a minute. Thank you. On an administrative note also, I just remind you all there's still coffee and tea outside. Some of you might want to grab your coffee and tea, come back here. We still do the exercise, okay? See you in a bit.
Ladies and gentlemen, I trust that you are having a good and very fruitful discussions at your table. Just wanted to remind you that we just have 5 minutes left for your table discussion before we move on. Just a reminder as well, please post your takeaways on the pigeonhole. Again, please be reminded to post your takeaways on Pigeonhole. And you have 5 minutes remaining to wrap up your discussion at the table. Thank you.
Welcome back, everyone. I see many of you catching up with old friends. Very happy to see a lot of discussion going on. I just want to bring you all back to the next segment now. As we go into this next segment, I just want to invite everyone to consider how, maybe take a seat first. Everyone just take a seat first. So as we go into this next segment, I just want to invite everyone to consider how is it that you all might be able to apply the 4 STs in your organizations. For this next segment, we have curated a very special panel representative of the many stakeholders that you have in the room. These are fellow practitioners, people who have been applying different aspects of the 4ST within their own experiences. And I think the idea here is also to be able to learn from what their journeys have been, what the challenges that they've encountered, what kind of successes they've had. You know, once again, I just want to encourage all of you from your table discussions to use the pigeonhole. There are two polls going on now. The first was what we just did, which is to say, what is it that was one key insight that you have taken out of your table discussions? And then for coming into this second segment, I just want to encourage all of you to think about questions that you have for the panel. And I've noticed that many of you have started populating the panel questions already. So please keep doing that and voting up also these questions so that we can focus on some of these. Again, there are 800 of you in the room. I might not be able to get through all the questions, but just want to encourage you all to actively use the pigeonhole for the Q&A. So let me introduce our speakers. Our esteemed panelists come from 4 different organizations. Firstly, we are very privileged to have with us Mr. S. Davendran, who is CEO of the Sri Narayana Mission, Ms. Ivy C., Executive Director of the Halogen Foundation. We've heard a lot about Andrew, so Mr. Andrew 𝒐𝒈, VP of Group Sustainability at Singtel, as well as Mr. Seah Chin Siong, Chairperson of the MVPC, as well as President and CEO of the Singapore Institute of Management. Speakers, may I invite you up the stage? Let's first start with a brief introduction. Maybe I'll invite each of our panelists to introduce themselves briefly. Let us know a little bit about where you're from and also how your organizations have been embracing different parts of the 4ST. We'll start with Dev, then we go to Ivy, Andrew, and then Chin Siong. Dev?
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dev, and as was mentioned, I serve with the Sri Narayana Mission. We operate nursing homes, we operate welfare homes, so community care sector and the social service sector. It's been a very interesting morning. I think I speak for all my staff, some of whom are here physically, some virtually, and our president is here physically. We resonate with many of the things that were shared this morning, particularly empowerment. I'll stop there and hand it over, and maybe take questions later. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ivy, and I'm with Halogen Foundation Singapore. We're a 19-year-old IPC charity that focuses on youth development, and our main focus is bringing character, mindset, and soft skills programs to young people and helping them uncover their full potential to thrive. I think looking forward to the discussion, and I hope that we can give some voice or perspectives to smaller SSAs like ourselves and how we are growing alongside the 4ST plans.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Andrew 𝒐𝒈, and I head up the Singtel Group's corporate sustainability. Very privileged to be here as a corporate representative to provide perspective into the sector. I suppose we are in the ICT sector, and when we look at 𝑭𝒐𝒓, there's a huge digitalization strategy. We are in the digitalization business, and as a corporate, we want to see how can we, empower every generation. Same purpose we have to empower through digital enablement. So happy to provide some perspectives.
Hi, I'm Chin Seong, Chairman of NVPC and President CEO of Singapore Institute of Management. I'm also a member of the 𝑭𝒐𝒓 panel. I think what struck me this morning was the extent which it highlights the need to come together as a system in terms of dealing with what is increasingly more complex challenges in the sector. And in my other role in NVPC, we've also looked at a sector that's kind of outside the social sector, the people sector, which is a private sector. How corporates are actually converging onto purpose, which is not just for profit, but for profits, for purpose and therefore profits. And I hope to, subsequent to this, maybe share a little bit more in terms of how this sector can actually collaborate with that sector, which can further sustain and create a better future outcome. Thank you.
Thanks very much, panelists. So this morning we've heard a lot about empowerment. I would love to see what that looks like in practice. Maybe we'll start with Dave. We've spoken about empowering individuals, families, communities, and I understand that Sri Narayana Mission has adopted empowerment and inclusive practices. You doing things with people, not to them, not for them. And you've experimented also with empower circles, I understand. I'd love to hear from you what some examples of what this looks like in practice and how service users have responded to this sort of empowerment.
Yep, thank you. So I mentioned just now that we run a nursing home, we run a subvented nursing home. And in 2017, we set up a residence committee. And the premise was very simple. Our nursing home has 224 residents. It's their home. So that was the starting premise, that the home belongs to them and that all of us who work there, we're actually working to support them. And it seems strange to me that our residents didn't have a say to that extent that it was possible, given the resources that we have, didn't have a say in how things were run. So we set up a residence committee, they elect their own members, and they give us feedback. And they are part of our decision making when it comes to things as basic as what color their pajamas should be, what the menu is like. If people want to come and visit us and bring them on outings, we actually get their feedback on whether they would be interested in going on such outings. The last 2 years of the pandemic have been challenging because of all the infection control and restriction measures we had to put into place. But we're opening up now and we hope to get things back on track. So the residence committee was one such initiative that we introduced, which is really about empowering our residents and giving them a reason to look forward to each day. Thanks.
Thanks, sir. Open question to the rest of the panelists as well. Could be empowerment through digital, empowering young people, empowerment in complex systems. Love to hear from the rest of you. How do we think about empowerment for this sector? Let's go with Chin Seong first, then we go.
I don't know. I thought one of the things that which Anita has mentioned earlier in a speech, which is how do we build collective leadership within the sector? How do we empower leaders with the capacity, in spite of the time constraints or what Anjan tells me, poverty of time of our leaders, board members, chairmen, and so on. Because it starts there, and that's how that's going to significantly affect and impact the direction of the SSAs. I say this because I was just having a conversation earlier about between competition, collaboration, and relationship. And fact is that leadership comes in and sets the tone for an organization. But if you look at most organization leaders, most tend to put the organization as the center. and everything else revolves around them. And what I think we need is for leaders to have a shift in perception, which is to put the center, in the center, the purpose, and move to the side and work with other SSAs to achieve that purpose. It's not uncommon here, and it's definitely not uncommon in the private sector, especially the private sector, where they put the company's main motive, which is profits, at the center, and everyone else, your customers, your governments, and so on. There's a movement right now globally, and recently it was published by the British Business Purpose Commission, exhorting businesses in Scotland to be purpose-centered. And in fact, their target is by 2030, every business in Scotland will be business purpose-centered. Now, if Singapore businesses were able to do that, and if our social sector leaders can have that capacity to engage and go beyond just being the center, but to work with them where the purpose is center, which is servicing our beneficiaries, our service users, and so on, then I think we will see a major shift in see how this sector develops up to 2030 to Anita's message earlier. Thank you.
Can I just add to that?
Sure. Maybe just to build off what you mentioned, Chin Siong, I think as corporates are driving for purpose, and you hear all these things about corporate sustainability and environmental and social and governance, it's a phenomenal opportunity for the social sector to work with the corporate and the private sector, because corporates are looking for purpose, but maybe we don't know how. But corporates want to bring the capabilities, the skills, the partnerships into the sector. So it actually represents a fantastic opportunities, because our stakeholders are asking us, what are you doing to address social issues beyond just donating money? Boards are asking, what strategy and what value add do you bring to the sector beyond just donating money, right? So again, I think with that lens of trends for the corporate, it does say there's a fantastic opportunity to engage differently. And I suppose another aspect of empowerment, I do think of it from the digital lens again, that digital, whether it's enabling the SSAs or the SPEs to operate more efficiently, does mean it's empowering more of its resources to be driving the outcome, rather than sometimes I see a lot of SSAs stuck in administration of the back-end processes. And again, when you had the situations like COVID and you don't have enough care workers, social or healthcare workers that can physically be present with the beneficiaries, again, sometimes technology and digital enablement is a form of enabling not just the delivery of those solutions, but also self-empowerment for individuals who can sometimes take benefit of the care through digital enablement. And we've seen many very, very good examples of that in healthcare, disability, in aging care, etc. And I do believe it's a fantastic opportunity for the whole sector to look at that and how do we embrace it and work together with the players who know technology.
Maybe so I'm hearing about corporate purpose, I'm hearing about empowerment through the strength of purpose, riding on sustainability as a megatrend, and the power of digital in that. Maybe we check in with Ivy if you have any thoughts on what empowerment looks like when either for your organization or when dealing with the youth.
I think first thing, there's a lot of power in the language that we use. So I really love the way we've reframed and referring to this whole idea of social purpose entities. Just a couple of years back, we call ourselves VWOs, right? And now social service agencies. And part of the value in language and a name, it's also a reminder for ourselves to constantly calibrate. I think I've been very encouraged in all the interactions with other fellow SPE or SSA leaders that I think we all care about the causes and the people that we're trying to serve, but at the same time, with COVID, with all the avalanche of things, like empowerment requires lots of different skill sets. So I think our organization has gone through the journey of trying to pick up as many skills as possible, just to make sure that, like, there was this question about how do we prevent ourselves from being overwhelmed and focus on progress in the right direction. And I think the last few years, that has been a lot of skills and equipping for us as an organization, with learning that we want to put empowerment at the center, and we can think of creative ways of how to allow the youth to be taking more ownership of their own growth journeys. So the programming design is often the easy part. It's always the implementation, collaboration, like how does that look like? And for our organization, I think the journey has been largely on what are the skill sets do we need to equip ourselves with. Mindset is really important, but it helps when you have a very simplistic lingo to always go back to, because if we always start with talking about our social purpose, sometimes we get a bit distracted with the hows and operations, but we always come back to the core. And I think that has been something that I take away also from the community as a reminder to kind of recalibrate. We've got the direction. We just need to work on that muscle and slowly plow through this together. Yeah.
That's a great point on the power of language. And it's also a very nice segue into building up capacity, which I'm going to come back to you on in a minute, as well as what you talked about on the corporate side, partnering with corporations. Maybe just hear from that on empowerment. I think you wanted to share something as well.
Yes. Just taking up the point that Chin Cheong made, and that alluding to what Anita spoke about as the challenge, in the next 30 years, mindset. It got me thinking, what is the mindset for 4ST? What are the values that make up this mindset, and what are the competencies that would make up the base for this? As Martin, responded when he listened to Anita's response on mindset, and he was talking about, how do we get away from this challenge of beggar thy neighbor? You win-win, but if someone wins more than you, you start looking at win-lose. So we need to ask ourselves, I think, what is the the mindset? When we say mindset, what are the values that make up this mindset? And if for me, listening to Alistair's wonderful sharing just now, if you think about it, his parents and then his friends and the society made sure that he had access to education, and he educated himself. His mind is now set free, empowered. You could see him moving around in his motorized wheelchair, yeah? And that's Alistair literally leveraging technology. But beyond that, I think it is his mindset. And I think if we plumb that mindset, we would get a sensing on what this mindset ought to be for 4ST. That's the thing I just wanted to respond on. Thank you.
That's so true. Coming back to Ivy, you've taken Halogen on a journey of transformation for your organization. I'm sure everyone would love to hear, if you could share with us what made Halogen embark on this. What were the key challenges you had dealt with? To Dev's point, what were the mindsets that you had issues that you had to overcome, and what kind of outcomes came about?
Sure, there are lots of stories, but I think I'll just paint the overarching theme. So our organization development journey started almost about 2.5 years back. So we actually got interested to get on board just slightly before COVID happened. I'll share a bit about the impetus, because the organization back then was maybe 16 or 17 years old, and I think just like many other fellow charities and SSAs, I think the constant preoccupation was how do we ensure sustainability financially, how do we ensure that people know about the work that we do, how do we continue to build communities and get partners. But I think at one point in time where we took a step back and really looked at the kind of programs that we were running, we also recognized that the scene out there for young people is very rapidly changing. I think that there's a sense of urgency, and of course when COVID hit, it made it even more apparent, right, that we know a lot of the clients and beneficiaries that we serve, their lives and environments are changing very rapidly, drastically. We ourselves experience it as SSAs, but for them, I think it's multifold or amplified. And I think the main impetus was that we want to learn and grow better to be able to serve better. And so then we decided, hey, what's this OD thing? And when we found out a bit more, I think it was initially, honestly, very intimidating because the idea of really looking at doing an organization health check, which is what the 𝑭𝒐𝒓𝒆 framework is really all about, it was very thorough, and it really was fairly uncomfortable for us to say, like, let's run through an audit of everything that we do and ask ourselves the hard questions of, are we still relevant? Are we strong at certain things that we say we want to be? And in an in a nutshell, the last 2 years has been quite turbulent because COVID also hit us. But I would say the shift of paradigm has been quite remarkable. I found that a lot of fear turned into excitement as the team started to realize, hey, you know, there's so much more we could do. It was a process though. It took about a year and a half before we kind of fully got transited into this mode of like, yeah, we're ready for change and change management.
How do you know you've arrived, and what kind of positive outcomes can other folks engaging on this journey look forward to?
So I don't know if it sounds like, you know, a bit sadistic, but we tell our team like there's no done deal for this change management. The moment we're close to the end, logically we should look for something else, because I think we all acknowledge that the external environment is just very volatile and uncertain for the people that we want to serve. So there are tangible ways, like a lot of these mindset skill sets can be built. So we kind of learned simple frameworks and built that language so that we can be explicit or tangible about certain outcomes that we want to see. If it's at a service level, if it's at an internal learning level, what are some indicators of what success would look like, and we just work together as a team, break it down. Yeah, so I think it's a continual thing, and one key thing is to build that muscle around making it a continual journey rather than once I've hit there in 3 years, then we're done. Yeah.
Constant evolution, right? Maybe I'll jump over to Chin Siong. You know, in our conversations, I've had great admiration of you as a systems thinker. And, you know, I think all of us are dealing with all these uncertainties in the external environment, and also within our own organizations. Change is necessarily hard sometimes. I'm wondering, you know, when many SPs are dealing with bread and butter issues of, you know, retaining staff, you know, working day to day to, you know, deliver their services, staying afloat, for example, you know, how do they, what's a good way for them to think about balancing broader systems view of about the entire ecosystem against the day-to-day pressures of just going on, right? And how do we make this, translate this into sort of a relevant opportunity for their day-to-day concerns?
Yeah, thanks, Kelvin. So it's what Stephen Covey says in his book, 7 Habits, right? We tend to focus on the urgent and important because that keeps us feel needed, fulfilled, where I deal with the urgent problems, the today's issues, and so on, versus those that are important but has got a 5-year impact, a 3 to 5 year impact out there. But the thought process for these two issues are quite different. In a sense that if you are dealing with the urgent, you are basically reacting. And we react day to day to issues, staff issues, service depth issues. And we don't see that, in fact, the cause of it is something in the way that will take 2, 3, 5 years to fix. And when we try to fix it and we can't fix it, we go back to the urgent again, and the urgent important. And that's the vicious cycle. So what happens is most organization leaders don't invest enough in building the capacity to have its people, management, be able to see from a different perspective what the issues and challenges that they face. You know, people who are experiencing downstream issues are trying to solve the problem every day, but the solution is somewhere up there that belongs to somebody's responsibility, right? For example, if you hire, if HR continues hire the wrong staff, the business feels the consequence. They don't see the cause and effect. But to engage in that exercise, that thinking, as what Anita said, at the system level, you need to slow down. It goes against your very innate DNA of people in this sector because we are driven by the heart. But the system is neutral. The harder you work, the more the system will give you problems. You keep solving the same problem. How do you deal with that? You literally have to be aware of that, alert to that sense of urgency. It will always be there. The problems of the day will always be. But what do we systematically do to dislodge deep-seated systemic structures that are causing that to happen day to day, week to week, month to month, and it goes on. You know, in my experience, most organizations don't spend enough building that leadership capacity in the organization to see that, and that it's going to take them a long time to fix because it's 3, 5, 10 years. And that sometimes, again, to Anita's point, needs courage because you may not see results immediately, but it's important. And then once we hit something that we don't like, it's difficult because who can guarantee what will happen in 5 years' time? Then we swing back to the urgent and immediate. And that continues to keep us, and we feel good about it. This is part and parcel of leadership development, this is part and parcel of systems leadership, this is part and parcel. In fact, it's not new. It just needs to be reframed and positioned for the leaders in the sector to know how to see from a different level of perspective. For example, if you look at any of the SSAs, there are at least 5 perspectives you can look at it. The most important perspective is, why does this SSA exist? All the way down to what's actually happening on the ground. And sometimes what's happening on the ground doesn't quite align to why it exists. Because somewhere along the line, it's misaligned. The structure is misaligned, the policies, and then the processes, and the org structures, and blah, 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 blah. By the time you get to the ground, you ask the guy, why are you doing this? And he says, what's the purpose? And he says, I don't know, I'm doing this, right? Quite unlike what I think in one of the stories about the NASA janitor, right? And he says, why are you doing a job? Well, I'm sending a man to the moon. He knows the purpose. So I think part of the need here is really to enhance and build that leadership capacity to traverse across an organization in a different perspectives of the organization and look at what interventions are needed to strengthen this organization. And not just that. I come to this thing about competition and collaboration again. In a way, the fact is every year you have new charities being formed. It's an organic thing. No one organized it. It's an organic thing. Someone sees as a gap, I organize. But then how do you balance being organic with being organized? That means what structures we put, whether it's at government level, at NCSS, and how do we meet with the organic in a way that makes this sector really succeed? And not to say it's either or, but the challenge is how do you blend between being organized and being organic? And I just want to say finally, this sector especially, if you're dealing with engineering and all that, you deal with what we call complicated problems because technical complexity is there. But when you get into the social sector, when you deal with people, the social complexity is there. And if you have a technically complex problem, it's called a wicked problem. If you have both technically complex and socially complex, it's what we call a wicked mess. And that's where we really have to slow down and think how to resolve it. Thank you.
Maybe let me expand that conversation a little bit, deep dive a bit. I understand, of course, the ultimate answer sounds like it should be strategic alignment. And, of course, every organization is different, it's case by case. But, what you said also makes me wonder about the most common deep-seated invisible challenges that people are not paying enough attention to. Just wondering, if you can go one quick round to see what would these be. Is it about talent? Is it about purpose? Is it about systems or organizational design? Just want to see in your own experiences, what was a surprising hidden problem that you found beneficial to attend to?
Okay, let me take a stab at this. Anita in her speech spoke about new financing models. She spoke about new funding models. These are critical enablers. But I think we really also need to look at information and see how this is managed. I speak on behalf of my charity, but I suspect I speak on behalf of most of you in this room. I don't think we have the resources to aggregate information and then integrate it into, aggregate data and then integrate it into information. I think we need the help of government to do this, and then to be able to cascade this down to the SSAs, SPEs, so that we, together with this, the people on the ground, service users, are able to synthesize solutions that will meet their needs. I know PDPA and data management and data protection, but we have to find a way to have a better grip on how we manage information. And I dare say if we can do that, we will also build up the trust, not just between the regulators and all of us on the ground, enablers like NCSS or AIC, but within, amongst SSAs as well. Thanks.
I think the biggest challenge from my view, and I'm a leadership coach also in Optus, and if the elephant in the room is mindset, as Dev and even Anita spoke about, I think the underlying elephant of the elephant is fear of failure. And as I think of this 4ST strategy, any transformation cannot 100% be successful. And if the mindset is that we cannot fail, actually half the battle is lost. I for the records, I'm a high school dropout from the Singapore, junior college and reject of the education system. I'm a failure, right? But I realized actually failure is not that bad. It's really about how you learn and how you improve after that. So when I think of this 4ST strategy and the roadmap, what's the structure to allow safe failure? Because if you don't allow that, you will not allow experimentation, right? So we talk about it at our table, we're talking about the funders of the social service, whether it's philanthropic or corporates or individuals, and everyone's holding the SSAs to probity and accountability for the outcome of the dollars, right? And yes, there's a set of stakeholders, I believe, for which you cannot fail, but I also do believe there's a set of stakeholders, some parts of it being whether it's government or tote board funding, or even some corporates are prepared to fund and support for experimentation, right? And because they look at it from a very different angle. And I give the angle, we run a Future Makers social innovation program where we provide grants, we financially support and mentor social impact startups to develop and experiment with technology. Not all of that is going to be successful, but we're prepared to say, like a corporate, if you don't innovate, if you don't try, if you don't fail, then you're also not going to get the breakthrough. Similarly, I used to run Singtel Ventures, and out of 30 companies and 150 million that we invested in, 1/3 were successful, 2/3 failed. But those 1/3 that was successful was where we really got the breakthrough in innovation, in new solutions, right? And those breakthroughs more than compensated for some losses. So I think the sector's got to think, how do you deal with this risk of failure, fear of failure, the fear you spoke about? Because if you don't address that and don't find a way to put in the structures, that is going to be the biggest challenge for this transformation.
1/3 compared to the VC 20% is already doing very, very well. But maybe in terms of communicating to corporations or funders to take risks and to experiment, do you have any thoughts on how do you help them think through that? Even as funders, I'm sure they also want to put themselves behind some success, right? To see actual impact, not to risk their careers, for example. How do we think through this?
I think if you go to a corporate and you say, give me $1 million, a corporate is going to be very conservative. But if you say there is something we can co-produce, using Alistair's words, co-develop together, where we better understand the social issue as we also bring to bear not just money, but skills, knowledge, capabilities, then I think the value add is very different and probably changes the risk appetite, because $1 million put in is $1 million written off. But maybe if my people get involved, they bring the capability, even if it doesn't go so well, the risk is a lot more contained, right? So that's one lens. And I think the other lens of managing that is really, again, that collaborative effort, that co-development effort that actually reduces the risk significantly. Because corporate's greatest fear is if I give money and I have no control, no visibility, no view of the impact, then what if it doesn't go so well? But I think if they are closely involved, I use Alistair's word, so he's well quoted today, right? We are not only empowered, but we're also empowered to take accountability because our people are involved. It's not like we just gave the money and then SSA run off and do all they can and it was not successful. We actually got joint accountability in that. And I think that equation makes a bit of a difference in how we can engage the corporate sector for a bit, the social service sector for slightly higher risk experimentation that I think is needed in some of these breakthroughs.
And I suppose you could gradually scale it up. And you know, your words also make me think about how do you structure so-called no regrets moves, right? When you go to them, even if my project doesn't really work out, but maybe you got a chance to practice leadership among your corporate volunteers or other things, right? And if we come back to the question around hidden ills, I'm just looking at some of the highest voted question here. And again, I want to encourage everyone to use the pigeonhole, put in your questions, vote up your questions, right? So the most popular question that again is very brass tacks, right? Is about how many folks here are already experiencing burnout with low pay, high stress while serving the community. I guess talent is the issue, right? Talent attraction. How do you attract people to stay in the sector and manage their well-being as much as they are providing care for others as well? Maybe Ivy, who has been through this organizational health aspect, you can start this line of conversation.
I think the reality is it's always an ongoing challenge. We have this little internal running joke that our staff who supports our HR function, because we don't actually have a HR, when we hire a certain person to put in a position, then we're like, okay, let's check off the jobs board, and then we'll soon be done. And we've been talking about this for the last 3 to 5 years. We're always constantly looking out for people, and it's not easy because I think our demographic is a little bit more of the younger hires. But I think what has been really powerful or effective for us, we don't compete on a pay scale basis very often. I think as leaders or stewards of organizations, our job is to remind or help individuals find the alignment with what the organization is doing with their personal purpose. I think many people step into the sector because they want to do good and are willing to make the sacrifice. Otherwise, they would have gone for a private sector job directly. But as they get into rolling their sleeves up and doing the work, it gets very tiring. It's very human, very emotion-centric. So our job sometimes is take a step back ourselves, but also for our teams, reminding them of the purpose. So we have this fun thing of encouraging the heart, being able to curate and bring stories to the fore to help them see what they're doing. Even if I'm a finance person, this is what you're contributing to. So I think that's one tip. The other one that we focus a lot on, I'm quite obsessed with during this whole season of organization development, is learning and development and growth. I think we as a sector, social service sector, attract people who care about people, development and growth, and actually for themselves. If you constantly pour out, but you don't think about how you can nurture your own skills to serve better too, they get really drained. So we focus a lot of their strategies on that, reminding them of the purpose, bringing the stories and tell the stories to our own teams too. And then also being able to help them see that this is also a journey of growing skills, because if you're interested to serve the sector in the very long haul, don't just see the short-run wins of whether you're able to, transform the life of one client or beneficiary. Think about how you could build those skill sets to serve the sector for a career. And that's how we've been really doing it. And I find that, sorry, just to circle back just briefly on the point about deep-seated, I personally think that there's a lot that we could do if we focus on building the soft skills beyond technical skills of our people. If we want people to be more innovative in how to engage communities, they need the soft skills to do so. We want people to be more resourceful because we don't have that much money, right? And funding, we need to do more with less. You need people to train that up. You want people to have growth mindset. It's something that is a muscle that's slowly built. So a lot of the things that I think we're facing on the ground, our current strategy is if we can work on the people and help them grow stronger in these muscles, then we'll get greater yield. The hows and the whats, what we often tell our team is your game. Like, you will have plenty of ideas once you get the building blocks right. Yeah.
I'll just take that question on burnout. Community care sector, running the nursing homes, and social service sector, the psychiatric welfare home. The last 2 years have been tough. So, what I did, I for the first time in my working life, I made clearing leave a work plan objective. And so I brought it to my board. My president is here, very supportive. And they agreed that, yes, we have to track it like a work plan objective and make sure people take leave and, go take a break to sharpen the sword. I think we are also very blessed, the great support from AIC, Casey is here, MOH, NCSS, foundations, all coming together to help us. And that was my big takeaway from these last 2 years. It's been stressful, but I was sharing at my table that I saw Singapore's total defense in action. There are lessons to be learned, but it was very heartening to see how everyone came together, different ministries, everybody on the ground coming together, to beat this little bug that we can't see. And we all agreed at our table that if there was anywhere in the world these last 2 years we would want to have been, it would have been Singapore. So that's so make clearing leave a work plan objective, and I think we can address some of that burnout issues. Thank you.
Quick comment on burnout. I'm a leadership coach. A lot of leaders I work with are near burnout. And the biggest insight of burnout is when people are under the pressure and they feel they're doing the same thing and they're not getting those outcomes. So if I take that analogy with the social services sector, where you will always be under the pump of resources, lack of resources, the biggest cause of burnout for the people are that when they don't see a different way, a different option for how to go about the things the problems that they're trying to resolve, right? And the biggest insight from a leadership coach perspective is when people can see that I have an option, I have a different approach to go about the same challenge, even if I'm lack of resources, you'll be surprised the adrenaline drives them because they see and they're willing to be able to take alternatives, go through alternative paths, even if they're trying to solve the same issue, right? So when I think again of this 4ST, it's really about this. If you go about the same thing, trying to solve the same problem with the same limited resources, and you're not prepared to try something different, you're going to lose a lot of people, right? But when people see there's an option, they will give it a go. May not always be successful, but they will still give it a go.
Chen Xiang, I don't know if you'd like to comment. Earlier, Ivy was talking about learning and development and training leaders. I mean, it's a big topic. I know a pet topic for you. I know what is it that social service organizations with maybe very limited time, resources, running the operations can really do to help build that kind of capacity for talent as well.
Yeah, thanks, Kelvin. And if you have heard what Minister Chan Chun Sing had said some time back, that if you look at the future of work, the care economy is going to grow very big, which is what all of us here are in, care economy and professionals in the care economy. I just want to address the point about burnout and pay and so on. It's not necessary that the market, job market, necessarily match price with value. There are some jobs that are very high value, but they are priced low because it's charity or it's. And I think that there needs to be some correction to that. But that's a discussion for another day. I think the professionalism, the professionalizing of professionals in the care economy, in the people sector and so on, clearly is something that I think has a lot of room for growth, has a lot of room for development. Because the issues are no less complex than private sector. What companies, in fact, some of you are a lot more complex. The kind of talent that you need actually to deal with some of the issues. I like what Andrew said just now. We're going to try and get Singtel really involved in the corporate purpose for helping out. Because you really need all of us here to think beyond the sector in terms of leveraging the other actors and players, the ecosystem outside of social service, and leverage on that to affect your internal outcomes. If I can get Singtel to say, let's just hypothetically, we get Moon to agree, okay? Moon, is he here? No. But let's just hypothetically, we could agree, a 5-year sponsorship of kind where your people has a very well thought out plan to support, let's just say, pick an SSA. And that, I think, is a more sustainable way. Does it solve the talent problem? It does, because there can be volunteers for Singtel for some digital roles and so on. But it significantly lightens the burden on the SSA leader, actually, with a corporate, with a company. 1, 2, 3. The challenge is this, is how do you forge a common purpose with a corporate? How do you forge a common vision with them to serve a common purpose? Because they also want to serve a purpose. So I would, that would be my kind of, reaction to that question.
Thank you.
If I can build on what Chin Siong mentioned, one of the impetus how I ended up in this role of corporate sustainability in Australia, I used to do co-mentoring with leaders into the non-profit organization. When I say co-mentoring is, I mentor them with corporate knowledge, perspectives. They would mentor me to help to understand the social issues. And that's an example where, we built fantastic trust, relationship. We brought the best of both worlds. Corporate got a better sense of how we could address social issues as the head of the NPO got a better sense of how to leverage, what the corporate does best sometimes into that. And many partnerships came out of that trust and relationship, which was spoken about earlier, right? So I actually think it's a fantastic opportunity. There are a lot of leaders in the private sector also looking for purpose. And sometimes that senior level, doesn't have to be senior level, it can be a co-mentoring between both. I think that forges that collaboration, the trust, that actually will have a lot of spin-offs into collaboration. So just food for thought, because the corporates here, as well as heads of all the SSAs and SPEs, how do we connect that, the issue of connecting?
Yeah. And if I could just add to that, I think a key bridge, to achieve this partnerships with the corporates, excuse me, we need empowered boards. That helm SSAs. They need to also be part of the O&D, learning development journeys, so that they also understand the issues of the social service sector and then are better able to represent this or present this to the corporates and help discern possible partnership win-win situations. So the boards have to be part of the journey as well. Thank you.
So I want to put in small plug because we're looking at volunteer management and volunteer engagement at a very operational level too. What I'll really encourage fellow SSAs out there is that it takes a bit of a process. Like our very first corporate volunteer that we engaged was back in 2015, and right now we engage about 1,000 to 1,200 corporate volunteers on an annual basis, and I actually technically only have one volunteer manager. It's a process of skills that can be broken down. So we do need to learn a bit of how to speak the corporate language or lingo sometimes. So we're always fond of sharing with other SSAs that we send our corporate volunteers pre-reads because that's what they understand. It takes time for us to kind of design roles that are appropriate because not every volunteer is suitable to really just be directly in front of the youth and partners that we engage. So there are actually a lot of tangible skills, and I think from a NCSS point of view, what they have been really doing is just bring together platforms for sharing, because I think that was how we ended up learning. We looked for our own corporate champions at our own working level and said, like, how do we speak to you and how do we help us understand how this looks like? So I think it's not so much to focus on the different initiatives that you can embark on, but how, again, going back to what we're currently quite obsessed with, building those skills, because once you know, once you build that fundamental, we get a lot of fun play. So now we're actually exploring various corporate volunteers being involved in teaching us certain skill sets around marketing and all. And you know that it's a mindset shift if the staff actually comes up to you and say like, hey, can I ask this corporate volunteer for this help? And it's actually all pro bono stuff that we've been able to build, but it takes time and it can be broken down.
That's so encouraging to hear. I have so many more questions, and I'm sure all of you do as well, but our time is drawing to a close. Maybe just to finish off this segment, I just want to ask you all for one or two quick response, right? If imagine that you are representing your respective constituents, right? A large social purpose organization, maybe a younger one, a corporation, and let's say the government, let's say from that perspective, as MVPC, let's say. What would be one key message you'd like to say, that you'd like to see for your constituents in helping to realize the 4ST imagine if you could have a big billboard, you just want to put out there one key thing, what would that be?
Well, you know, ladies and gentlemen, in 27 days, it will be the 9th of August, and all of us will be reciting our national pledge. If you look at those aspirational descriptors which are engendered in our national pledge, you know, one united people based on equality, you know, so as to build a democratic society based on progress, you know, happiness, progress, and prosperity. If you look at the, you know, the vision statement for 4ST, you know, everyone empowered to live lives of dignity in a caring and inclusive society. I think I would say to my people, use the 4ST roadmap to continue to realize the aspirations engendered in our national pledge. Thank you.
Thank you. Ivy?
There's so much to talk about, but I would think
just one big headline.
keep focused. At the end of the day, I think summits or platforms like that, it's always very energizing for me because it reminds me of the core of why our organizations and why we joined the sector in the first place. So it's been tiring times. I actually wonder whether we give enough grace for ourselves as practitioners for self-care. Self-care is also a skill that can be built. So I'll probably say like keep focused and prioritize, because I don't think we can hit on everything in one shot. So keep focused, prioritize, and then I guess be patient and gracious about this will take some time for us to get there collectively.
Thank you, Ivy. Andrew?
I think, you know, corporates and impact startups and social enterprises are part of the ecosystem. How do we work together? How does the social services sector have the patience to help us better understand the social issues that we can bring to bear, skills, knowledge, capabilities? And it does take time to build those relationships and trust, but I always believe it does yield long-term sustainable partnerships.
Absolutely.
I would just emphasize one word, which is collaborate. And I think to do that, I will make just one suggestion. Really nurture relationships with your other actors in your sector, whether it's your stakeholders, whether it's nurture, build really good relationships. Because when you have that, there's a lot of things you can do later on. And if you want to collaborate for something, you can count on those relationships with your fellow SSAs. Thank you.
All right, on that note, you know, I have to call this to a close. I hope all of you have benefited as much as I have from learning about their journeys. Dave, Ivy, Andrew, Chin Siong, thanks very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I'm sure that all of you are keen to also hear from the rest of the room, you know, what is it that you all can do to implement the 4ST. I just want to bring your direction to the last poll of this segment on Pigeonhole. There's a simple question that we ask of you all, which is, as a leader, I or my organization will start to do something differently to realize the 4ST outcomes. What is this, right? So what is the one thing that I would do differently, I or my organization, to realize the outcomes? As you do this, inside the paper envelopes, there's a worksheet that you can take back with you to flesh this out in more detail. Together with this, you know, we hope that you can help your teams with this. And I just want to thank you again for this segment. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks, Calvin. Thank you for leading the session. Very insightful indeed. And thanks again to our panel members, Devendran, Ivy, Andrew, Chin Siong. Thank you very much. And as we transit to the next segment of our program today, just a quick one thought from me is at the end of the day, you know, as we're sitting here pondering our new 4ST journey, what it is that we want to keep in mind. At the end of the day, it's to put the purpose in the front, and I so agree with that, why we're all here in the first place, right? And to put that in the front as we continue with our journey, difficult as it might be, and there will be challenges. And what fun is there in the work we do if, you know, there are no challenges? It's how we tackle everything, how we fall down. Failure is inevitable, but how we get up again, that becomes very important. And so as we begin to wrap up our session today and move on to our next segment and then eventually to lunch, and for those of you who are staying for the AGM, I'd just like to invite the CEO of NCSS, Lee-san, to address us.
Thank you, Susan. Very good afternoon, everyone. And yes, it is afternoon already, so I will keep this really quick. Let me first thank the panel. I think you would all agree that it was really insightful hearing the perspectives of different stakeholders in the system. But one message is clear, I think, from the panelists as well as from all the speakers before that really each and every one of us have a part to play to achieve the 4ST vision. And NCSS is committed to working with all of you to achieve that vision. And I just want to take a very, very few quick minutes to share with you some of our resources and initiatives that we have planned for the coming year. So of course, we launched the 4ST earlier today, and that's the roadmap for the next 5 years. And along with that, we do have resources that we've put out. The 4ST report describes the aspirations for the sector and possible pathways to achieve it. We also have a 4ST playbook, which contains practical tips, case studies from around the world as well. For us, every one of us, every stakeholder, whether you're a social purpose entity, a corporate, a funder, what can we do? How can we play our part to achieve that vision? And to drive action and make sure that we monitor progress, we are setting up the 4ST Implementation Committee later in the year in order to draw synergy and alignment between all these implementation plans. So putting our money where our mouth is, Anita already mentioned the 4ST Partnership Fund that we are launching. And we will be bringing on board like-minded funders who wish to have a deeper stake in the ecosystem and are prepared to pool resources and also work with us on new funding models. So we have been speaking with grant makers and funders, not just about contributing money, though that's always welcome, but also contributing their expertise, their experience in order to help us design and curate the fund. So the idea is twofold. Really, we are looking to support innovative ideas that really embody the principles of 4ST, collaboration, bringing on board the relevant stakeholders, including service users, because they also need to exercise choice and so on, and also like-minded funders. And we are planning an initial fund size of $5 million. The community chest has already committed $2 million to the fund. So for grant makers and donors who are interested to learn more and to work with us, please come, we would love to talk to you. So 2 objectives of the fund: to promote innovative, collaborative ideas to solve complex problems, but also to experiment with new funding models. And if these models work, they will provide a good template for how we design funding in the future. Besides funding, we also need to build capabilities, and Chin Seong spoke a lot about the importance of systems capabilities, so we are not just taking our silo agency perspective. So this S-Cube program, which has been designed by SIM Center for Systems Leadership, it will be implemented in partnership with NCSS Social Service Institute, with sector leaders as the core of the participants, but also inviting representatives from the private sector, from the public sector, to really work together to solve these complex problems. The program will be spread out. The idea that right now the plan is that it will be spread out over the course of 12 months. So meant for leaders who are keen to deepen systems leadership capabilities. And it's not meant to be a course in theory, but really to bring on board, your problem statement, your complex issue that we want to work together with our partners on. So all this builds on actually many of the initiatives that we have already been putting out. And the next slide talks about our Community Capability Trust, which was launched already. And there are many capability pillars that we have in the CCT: people practice, digitalization, volunteer management. So you see, in those yellow boxes, those are the initiatives that we have launched. And the idea is to build these capabilities: organizational development, people practice, digitalization. And we have seen early results from all these initiatives. Thank you all for your support. For example, people practice, I think the social purpose entities who have come on board, 80% of them reported that they have improved in terms of people practice maturity. Those who have adopted our Tech and Go digitalization solutions reported, improvements in efficiency of 30%, but more importantly, the users feel better served, more empowered because of the choice and because these applications are designed to be user-centric. So we will be having a transformation showcase to enable us all to visualize, really how do we embrace, how do we adopt some of these innovations in order to improve our practice. So for example, robotics, AI, from applied in fields as diverse as rehab, counseling. So look out for it. That will be in November. We will also be launching a volunteer management maturity matrix. So those who have brought on board volunteer managers, and I think Ivy spoke about that, have seen that the rate of volunteerism has increased, the rate of regular volunteerism has increased along with volunteer hours, and that really translates to better sort of experience and service also to our users. But ultimately, we're doing all this in order to improve outcomes for our service users. And so we launched also last year our sector evaluation framework to provide that common language for all of us to be able to measure outcomes in the sector. And we have brought on board, I think several SSAs have already come on board. We're very encouraged that they're so committed to measuring outcomes. I think donors, funders are also very keen to sort of measure the impact of their giving. At the same time, I think social purpose entities also do want to do research to understand how to do their work better and more effectively. And often we get asked, do you have an ethics review panel? Where previously they had to approach university to do this. We have set up our own ethics review committee for the sector who wants to do research, and this is chaired by Professor Kenneth Poon. So we are doing a seminar actually next month on evaluation and research to also showcase social purpose entities who have done research and improve their practice as a result of that. We in NCSS, we also have a translational social research team, and we have done large-scale population studies to understand trends and to understand needs, not just today's needs, but to anticipate future ones. So actually, to Dave's point about making all this data more available, we will be actually putting out dashboards with some of this data so that you can see for yourselves, what the trends are and to anticipate what the needs will be going forward so that we can plan our services accordingly. So all of this would not have been possible really without all your strong partnership and support. And as we celebrate our 30th anniversary, I would really like to thank each and every one of you, social service agencies, funders, donors, partners, volunteers. Thank you so much for journeying with us over the past 3 decades. Really, thank you. And at this point, there is one particular person that I would like to make special mention of. This person has devoted more than 4 decades of his life to the service sector in various capacities, and of course, most recently as chairman of 𝑭𝒐𝒓𝒆. So he's none other, of course, than Mr. Philip Tan, who has dedicated Philip has dedicated a lifetime to volunteerism and service to the social service sector, and he will be retiring from the NCSS board this year. He has volunteered with NCSS for about 39 years, 9 years as chairman of 𝑭𝒐𝒓𝒆. I've been privileged to work with Philip since I came on board as CEO, and in the short 2.5 years, I think I've benefited greatly from his wisdom, his experience, which he has always been so generous to share. I think many who have worked even longer with Philip have wonderful things to say about him. So we want to hear from them in their own words. So we've put together this little video really to thank Philip for his service and dedication to NCSS, to 𝑭𝒐𝒓𝒆, and to the social service sector. So thank you, Philip, and please enjoy the video.
Philip always tells me, everyone wants to do good, but everyone wants to do good in their own way. That's actually a very important wisdom from him, because it really makes us listen to how people want to do good and not just focus on the way we want to achieve our goals. Philip has always, made deep contributions to society and the community. And especially so when during the pandemic, Philip led 𝑭𝒐𝒓𝒆 to raise a record amount to bring much needed support to vulnerable communities.
So Philip actually brought 𝑐𝒓𝒆, right? The whole continuum of people. It doesn't matter who you are. He always sees in you your willingness to want to give.
Philip is very direct. This directness may seem contrary to what a fundraiser does. However, his directness actually reflects his authenticity in fundraising.
Philip is a man with a very infectious smile. Okay, and that reflects his good heart.
He has a very generous heart. He is very candid, very frank, very open. He says what he thinks. We see him as a very family-oriented person. He is very close to his wife, Lily, and very close to his children and his grandchildren.
There are two significant schemes that Philip was very much responsible for. One is the 𝑭𝒐𝒓𝒆 Charity Support Fund, which is a fund to support smaller charities. The other example was how he really pushed and started the Care and Share Fund. We raised about $1.3 billion in about 28 months. And that really was due to Philip's tenacity, his persuasion, his never say die attitude. He will always push to the absolute limits if it's something that he believes in, and it's really for the good of our society and community.
He's taught us to really see even people in rental flats, not as recipients of donations, but also being able to give. And that's a very different way of looking at how people can really contribute and participate.
If I would say something to the next generation, I would say, don't worry about the results. Just worry about doing good. And if you can do that, you will have done well.
Philip, you have really done well. As you know, Philip, I wish you many more years, good years, in the sector, and more hours on the golf course, and even more hours with Lily and your children and your grandchildren as well. So, you know, I would say on behalf of every one of us at NCSS, everyone that you have reached out to, because it's very hard to say no to Philip, you know. He comes to you and you say, okay lah. And then after that you go, oh, what is it you want me to do actually, yeah? Right, Anita, I'm sure you've been on the receiving end of that, because I have. And so, but it's always so much fun to be with Philip. So Philip, thank you. Thank you very much. It is the 30th anniversary of NCSS, and how could we not celebrate it today as we launch so many things, as we move on with more conversations, look forward to the next 30 and the next 30. We want to celebrate this milestone birthday. You know, it's not easy for any organization, moreover one in the sector, in the charity sector, to reach 30 years and still thinking of growing and becoming bigger and better than it was before. So we want to celebrate this momentous occasion. I'd like to invite several people back up to the stage to help us do this. Speaker, if you can join us, please. Mr. 𝒕𝒕𝒆𝒓, who is Permanent Secretary, MSF. Anita Pham. Philip, of course. Can I get Lisan back to join us as well? And two former CEOs of NCSS who are here with us today, Alex Lee and Ang Bilian. Okay, we see the cake coming. It's going to be pushed out, so and so as we bring the cake up, we're going to be lighting some sparklers. There'll be no singing today. So at my count of 3, 2, 1, I just want you guys to join me in wishing happy 30th birthday NCSS, okay? So while the MBS staff are getting things ready on the stage. You guys had a good morning, yeah? Yes? Fruitful? Cool. Yeah. Masks off. We've got photos we want to take. And the cake knives are coming around. And so as we wish NCSS a very happy 30th birthday. Everybody ready? All right. Everybody got a knife? All got a knife? Okay. All right, guys, you ready? Okay, on my count of 3, 2, 1, yeah? Happy 30th birthday, NCSS. 3, 2, 1. Happy 30th birthday, NCSS. And may you have 30 and 30 more. And may the next 30 be fruitful years as well. All right, big photos. Cameramen in the front. Thank you very much. And again, we say happy birthday to NCSS for conquering the first 30. Thank you. Thanks to everybody on the stage. Oh, okay, selfie. This is Anita's famous selfie. All right, everybody smile. Anita, you do a selfie with the audience in the background, the way all big pop stars do. Our speaker is better, of course. He's the professional man. Okay, everybody in the audience smile, okay? Because you're going to be in the shot. Don't fall off, sir. Everybody, big smiles. Wow, very nice. Did you get the audience? Not, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much. What a lovely memento. Okay, everybody in the audience. Okay, everybody, smile. I know we can't see you, but we can see your eyes. One more for Isabella. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Speaker Obek. Thank you, Alex and Billion, Anita, Philip, Lisan. Once again, everyone, on behalf of NCSS, we'd like to thank all our members for being here with us today. What a fabulous morning and really superb indeed to be able to get together with everyone face to face for today's summit. We also want to thank all our donors, all our partners for your partnerships, for walking the journey with us all of the past 30 years. And we thank you very much for your support and for your belief in the work of NCSS, and hopefully all of us will be able to continue journeying together with each other on this journey for the next 30. Okay, we've come to the end of the summit, but not the end of the program. Lunch, as you can see, is being slowly moved into the room. We shall be serving lunch at your tables, okay? Just a couple of quick messages for those who are staying behind for the AGM. The AGM will begin at 3 o'clock this afternoon. Registration at 2:30 if you have not yet registered. Okay, this next thing is important. Participants who have not registered, you must. If you have, but you haven't collected your event badges, you need to do that as well. You can do that anytime from now until 2:45. The next bit would be for those who are voting, official representatives of the various SSAs who are attending the AGMs. If you are voting, If you qualify for a vote, please remember you have to firstly register, and secondly, you need to collect your smart cards. And you can also do that outside at the registration desk. Okay, please remember to do that before the AGM begins. And I urge you to try and do that by 2:45 at the latest. So I know that some of you did not get the opportunity to pick up your smart cards earlier this morning. If you have already registered, if you have already collected your smart cards, you do not need to go out and register again, okay? All right, if you have any questions, staff will be more than happy to help you and guide you. So as we wrap the summit, I just want to say thank you all very much. Thank you for being here. Enjoy lunch.